Nova, activate the battleship. The drones and bionic robots transmitted images back. All that could be seen was sand, and it was clear that the robots had limited effectiveness in the face of natural disasters. Relying on them to search for the young camel was evidently impossible, so he made a decisive decision to activate the battleship. No sooner had he spoken than a beam of traction shot out from the sky, pulling him into the battleship. Captain, which direction should we search? The Eastern recalled the route the young camel often returned. North. The battleship's rear engine lit up, and with a whoosh, it vanished into the horizon, heading straight for the sand wall. The life detection radar was already activated and scanning. The mechanical voice of the battleship's main control computer echoed on the bridge. In the holographic display, green light points appeared one after another. Nova, are these green points the underground insects and snakes? Eastern asked curiously. Yes, they are sand scorpions, lizards, and scorpions underground. Then your accuracy level is a bit too high. The young camel is about 11 meters tall and approximately 13 meters long. Please scan according to this standard. Understood. Instantly, 99 of the light points on the holographic screen disappeared, leaving only one point that kept flashing. Haha, found you. The battleship stopped above the light point, and a sheep was pulled out in the beam of light. Captain, this is a lost antelope. Continue searching. Eastern felt a bit anxious. The young camel was highly intelligent, and after spending time together, he had come to see it as his pet. Therefore, he was already quite worried about not finding it. Unfortunately, no new green light points appeared in the holographic display. Captain, we have flown 20 kilometers. I think we must have missed it. Should we try a different direction? Eastern wasn't sure either. Nova, if a creature is buried under the sand, can the life detection radar pick it up? Of course, as you just saw with those sand scorpions, it can detect any life form. Moreover, the detection depth can reach 50 meters. No, Nova, what I mean is, if it's underground, will there be any changes in the radar's detected cross-section? There might be a slight difference, but it certainly won't be significant. So there will definitely be changes. Turn around, activate the transmission scanner, and let's sweep back the way we came. Understood. However, Captain, please prepare yourself mentally, just in case. Eastern nodded. He understood that this was beyond his control. Do our best, and leave the rest to fate. The spaceship changed direction and immediately flew back the way it had come. Under the combination of life-detecting radar and transmission scanner, the sand could no longer obstruct Dongfang's view. He saw various sand scorpions, sand rats, and hibernating sand snakes underground. The spaceship was moving at high speed, and after 2 minutes, Dongfang made a discovery. Nova pointed out a green light spot that appeared in an underground space on the holographic image. Dongfang checked the distance to the base and unexpectedly found that this seemed to be the place where the little camel had previously helped him dig for the jade tablet. Even if it wasn't, it should be quite close. He carefully observed the surrounding environment, but it was of no use. Under the sandstorm, everything had long since become unrecognizable. At this moment, Nova's voice rang out. Captain, this should be an underground structure. Its design is typical of human courtyards, somewhat resembling ancient tombs from a certain region. It could also be a buried human dwelling, but it looks more like a tomb. In the holographic image, Nova marked the functions of various parts of the building: entrance, anteroom, south chamber, north chamber, and main chamber. Dongfang noticed that the green light was now flashing at the location of the main chamber. Let's go down and take a look. The battleship descended, and the protective shield expanded, covering the entire underground space. Dongfang and more than 10 engineering robots landed on the sandy area. Let's dig and see. Just as the engineering robots reached the edge of the sand dune where the main chamber was located and prepared to start digging, the sand at the edge of the dune suddenly began to move. Captain, it's that creature from before. It's coming out. Then let's wait. Several robots backed off, encircling Dongfang as they waited for the creature to emerge from the dune. Nova, are you feeling traumatized? The little camel won't harm me. Your safety is paramount. I won't make the same mistake as last time. Fortunately, Dongfang didn't have to wait long. In just 2 minutes, a little camel covered in yellow sand burst out from the dune, looking just like the first time he saw it. It bared its teeth and ran toward Dongfang. And due to its speed, its tongue was flapping out. Just as it reached Dongfang and was about to lick his face with its tongue, Dongfang reached out to press it down, leaving the little camel looking quite resentful and somewhat depressed as it stood aside. Captain, should we continue digging? Nova's voice echoed. How about we dig it out and take a look? I think the jade tablet should have come from here. As you wish. The engineering robots immediately went to the spot where the little camel had emerged and began their work. They first welded a large metal frame slightly larger than the main chamber. The engineering robots placed it flat over the dune and pushed it straight down until it contacted the underground structure and stopped. Then their mechanical arms transformed into shovels and started digging. Nova, are you worried about damaging the underground? Send out a battlefield cleanup ship. Dongfang didn't want to just stand here waiting idly. Understood, Captain. Nova cannot perform such operations. It is merely an intelligent robot, a battlefield cleaning vessel. Not designed for cleaning space debris, right? Even if it were to think of something, it wouldn't consider using it to handle sand. Artificial intelligence is, after all, just artificial intelligence. A battlefield cleaning vessel, as the name suggests, is meant for cleaning up battlefields. In space, after a battle concludes, the wreckage of the defeated party's ships will scatter across hundreds of thousands of kilometers from the explosion point. Moreover, it covers 360 degrees without any blind spots. If the battlefield happens to be near a navigation route, the victorious party, according to interstellar regulations, has the obligation to clean up the battlefield. However, sending people to clean it up would take too long. So the planetary organization designed this fully automated garbage cleaning spacecraft for the purpose of cleaning up space battlefields. Using it to clean sand dunes is indeed too simple. The cleaning vessel flew over the sand dune, and a light net immediately shot out from its top, wrapping around all the sand in the metal frame and sucking it into the storage space. It then lowered its altitude, opened its top, and sucked all the sand from the metal frame into its cabin. The underground structure finally revealed itself. Dongfang immediately approached, crouching by the metal frame. He assessed that this was an ancient structure from a certain civilization, as it had dilapidated tiles and eaves on the top, with carvings of animals on the eaves. However, due to severe damage, Dongfang could not determine what they were. But it was certain that this was an ancient building from that civilization. But is this a tomb? As the sand continued to be sucked away, the underground building finally showed its full appearance. In fact, except for the roof, it was just rock underneath. The roof seemed to have been carved later, while other areas were merely rock. Perhaps due to the passage of time, there were several holes in the main room's roof. Dongfang glanced inside and saw it was all sand. However, because the roof was slanted, only a small portion at the top was empty. It seemed that a small creature was hiding there from the wind and sand. Captain, should we continue? Nova looked at the sand-filled structure and asked, finding these things meaningless. Of course. Dongfang recalled that jade tablet book. Understood. Another cleaning vessel flew out from the battleship. The cleaning process accelerated further, and half an hour later, Dongfang saw a peculiar building framed in the metal frame. You might say it's a rock, but the upper part of the main room was still carved with eaves. But if you say it's a residence, it doesn't look like a home for the living. It's quite strange, a residence that doesn't look like one. And a tomb that doesn't resemble a tomb. Having previous experience, Dongfang naturally wouldn't take the risk of entering. A small unmanned drone first flew into the building through the hole in the roof. A rectangular stone block, about 1 meter long and wide, appeared before Dongfang's eyes. It was covered in sand and dirt, making it hard to see what material it was made of, but it didn't look like a coffin, as it was only 1 meter long and couldn't hold a person. Stone block. Nova, let the robot go down and take a look. The robot quickly entered and cleared all the sand grains from the stone block. Upon closer inspection, Dongfang noticed that it seemed similar to the jade material of the jade tablet given to him by the little camel. What was even stranger was that the lid of the box was also engraved with the 4 divine beasts: white tiger, vermilion bird, black tortoise, and azure dragon. The divine beasts were connected by auspicious patterns like clouds and fire. As the sand and mud fell away, Dongfang discovered a large hole in the center of the front of the box. When the robot's night vision camera illuminated the area, Dongfang found 3 jade plates in the image. They were identical to the jade plates he held, also engraved with the 4 divine beasts and various auspicious patterns. 2 robots reached out and lifted the lid of the stone box. A pure white jade box appeared before Dongfang, like the stone box outside. It also had a hole at the front. Captain, this was opened by a sand rat, Nova's voice sounded. No wonder the jade plates inside were still well preserved. If it were a grave robber, there would surely be nothing left. Dongfang nodded. This made sense. After the robot retrieved the jade box and sent it back to the ground, it lifted the stone box again. Dongfang was surprised to find some decayed wooden debris beneath the stone box. It seemed that this stone box was placed on a wooden rack. At this point, Dongfang could confirm that this structure was indeed not a tomb, but rather seemed to be specifically used for placing this stone box. When the robot looked around, it saw some damaged murals. Although only a small part remained, it still revealed the origin of the stone box. Seeing this, Dongfang's curiosity immediately piqued. Nova, I'll go down and take a look. Without waiting for Nova to respond, he pressed a button at his waist. Liquid metal flowed over him, and he donned the first-generation power armor. Flames burst from his feet, and he soared into the air, drilling through the hole in the roof. Once inside, he walked straight to the wall and carefully examined the murals. The first mural depicted a group of people, specifically ancient individuals from a certain country dressed in long robes with wide sleeves, receiving 4 stone tablets from a masked figure with a vertical eye on its forehead. They all bowed their heads, seemingly afraid to look at the figure handing over the jade plates, displaying an air of piety. Upon closer inspection, Dongfang realized that they were not stone tablets, but jade plates. He could see the faint outlines of the 4 divine beasts drawn on them. The second mural showed the vertical-eyed figure flying in midair, its eyes seemingly displaying disdain, or perhaps pity. In any case, it appeared quite strange. The humans receiving the jade plates seemed too frightened to look up, or perhaps they were captivated by the jade plates in their hands. The third mural was damaged, and the three-eyed figure was no longer visible. The person who received the jade plates had become the focus of the crowd, standing on a high platform and receiving worship from the people below. The jade plates were held high above his head. A similar expression to that of the figure with vertical eyes appeared on his face. Then there was a vast area of missing information. After examining it closely, Dongfang couldn't make sense of it. Occasionally, he would notice someone sitting cross-legged on the ground, holding a jade tablet, with their eyes tightly shut, and a faint vertical eye drawn on their forehead. What was going on? Did this jade tablet have some special function? Dongfang murmured to himself and continued to look along the wall. Unfortunately, all the murals behind were damaged, and he couldn't find any useful information. Only some patterns resembling Guizhuan in the corners. He kept walking until he found a relatively complete mural right behind the stone box. The mural depicted this underground structure, showing a wooden frame in the main room, on which lay a stone box. Finally, with intermittent lines, it illustrated 4 stone slabs. In front of the stone box, there were many people kneeling. The first person to receive the jade tablet appeared in the sky, standing on clouds, with a prominent vertical eye drawn in the middle of their forehead. He displayed the same expression as when he stood on the high platform, holding a mask identical to the one worn by the three-eyed figure in the first mural. Nova, have there been any other discoveries regarding the jade tablets? Dongfang furrowed his brows, realizing that all the murals indicated that those 4 jade tablets were extraordinary. I haven't found anything new, I just retested. But the results are still the same. These are all high-quality mutton fat jade. Wait, I feel like there is a great secret hidden here. You must keep those jade tablets safe. I have a hunch that we just Haven Tea discovered their usage. By the way, have there been any findings in the ear chamber? Yes, there are some stone slabs and other daily necessities. You should go take a look. Dongfang nodded and walked to the entrance of the main room. He discovered that there should have been a door here, but due to the passage of time, it had completely decayed, leaving only some wood shavings in the circular pit where the door hinge was. Following the passage carved from the stone, Dongfang walked about 6 meters and found a second room on his left. Captain, this is where the stone slabs are stored. Dongfang stepped inside, where 2 robots were cleaning the items. This stone chamber was about 21 square meters, 7 meters deep, and 3 meters wide. Like the main room, the door had long disappeared, but there were many wood shavings inside. When Dongfang entered, the 2 robots were clearing the wood shavings from the deeper part of the room, and the entrance had already been cleaned quite thoroughly, with many slabs neatly arranged on the floor. Most were grouped in 4s, some in pairs, and some single, all arranged tidily by the robots. What is this? Chapter 148. The theory of feng shui. Dongfang stepped forward, picked up a slab from the ground, and as the light shone on it, a glimmer of yellow appeared in his eyes. What the heck? This is actually a gold slab. Perhaps it was a coincidence. But the piece he picked up was engraved with the same design as the jade tablet given to him by the little camel. However, the engraving was far inferior to that on the jade tablet. The lines were uneven in thickness and depth, as if attempting to imitate the design on the jade tablet. But perhaps due to a lack of skill, the mythical beast was somewhat distorted in the carving. For instance, the white tiger was chubby, giving it a rather endearing look. Little brain. Dongfang chuckled and casually set down the gold plate. He continued deeper inside, where silver plates, stone slabs, marble plates, and even a natural crystal slab appeared. As Dongfang ventured further, the carvings on the various materials became increasingly exquisite, with greater resemblance the deeper he went. When Dongfang reached the innermost part, a robot handed him a jade plate. Its carving quality was exceptionally high, looking indistinguishable from Dongfang's jade tablet. Had he not known that his jade tablet was safely placed in the study at the sand control base, he would have thought it was the same one. What are these plates for? I just roughly counted, and there are at least 100 sets in this room. Dongfang's brows furrowed even more, as more items were discovered. His confusion only grew. Captain, I can't determine anything either. The age is too ancient. The carbon-14 dating indicates these items date back about 500 years. Nova thought he was being asked, so he eagerly shared his findings with Dongfang. Nova, it's okay, I was just talking to myself. Dongfang reassured him as he exited the side room and entered the opposite room. The size was similar to the room on the left, but this one did not store those plates. Instead, there were many pieces of furniture made of stone beds, stone stools, stone tables, stone hammers, stone drills, and even a copper mirror. However, there were no textiles, bamboo slips, or books to be found. There should have been bamboo slips or silk here, as Dongfang discovered that the stone wall behind the stone table had been carved into the shape of a bookshelf, but it was now completely empty, likely all weathered away. Dongfang left again, heading outside. Next to the residence were 2 small rooms. Dongfang glanced at them. The left one was a kitchen, with the stove blackened. The small room on the right was empty, but the walls were carved with numerous square grids. What is this for? Dongfang was puzzled again. After exiting the small room, he continued down the corridor. At the end of the corridor was a stone door. Dongfang gently pulled it open, revealing a metal frame outside. He stepped out and turned to look at the stone cave. On the left and right, there were 2 lines of characters carved, and above the door, there was a plaque inscribed with 3 characters in ancient seal script. Dongfang felt they looked somewhat familiar. The first 2 characters should be Jade Tablet, which he had seen before, but he had never encountered the last character. Nova, what does it say? The couplet reads, "In the sky, the white jade capital, 12 towers and 5 cities." The lower couplet reads, "The immortal caresses my crown, and with my hair bound, I receive eternal life." Oh, what about the plaque? Jade Tablet Residence. This is interesting. Are those beings with vertical eyes in the sky immortals? They have actually built a residence for the Jade Tablets, and seem to have arranged for someone to guard it. By now, all underground structures have been thoroughly surveyed. Besides acquiring a large number of Jade Tablets, there are only a stone box and a jade box left. Dongfang glanced outside. The sandstorm came quickly and went just as fast. In no time, it had swept past his location and moved far away, although the wind had already weakened significantly. Nova, gather all the items. Let's head back. This building should be buried again, and make sure to mark the location. We may come back in the future. As you command, Captain. A few minutes later, Dongfang and the robot reappeared on the sand dune. The previously exposed structure had been filled in and restored to its original state. Anyone who came would not notice anything unusual. The battleship fired the towing beam once more, and Dongfang returned to the bridge. The battleship retracted its shield and vanished in an instant. In the small villa, there were 3 jade slabs and a barely recognizable jade box on Dongfang's desk. Holding one slab, he examined it closely. Just now, he had used methods like water immersion, fire burning, and electric shock to test the jade slab, but it remained intact without a single mark. It seemed that the various violent tests had no effect on it at all. However, the jade box containing the tablets was different. It shattered into several pieces when exposed to fire or water. Thus, the box on the table could barely be called a jade box. It appeared that all the anomalies lay with the jade tablets. Captain, our scientific tests indicate that it is just a somewhat hard jade slab. All right, let's set it aside for now. Dongfang stood up and carefully locked the 3 jade slabs along with the jade tablets into the safe. Now let us talk about the discovery of the Maya civilization. After tidying up, Dongfang casually tossed the broken jade box onto the bookshelf, planning to keep it as an ancient jade collectible. All right, Nova had already arrived at the research center of the lunar base. From their fragmented records, and by comparing them with ancient Chinese civilization, I gained some basic understanding of Yuan. Nova picked up a stone slab from the table and spoke to the camera. Have you noticed that only in China do people believe in feng shui on this planet? Dongfang nodded. That's true. Even now, in this age of advanced technology, many architectural universities in China still offer a course called Ancient Architecture, which, don't be fooled into thinking it's just about studying ancient buildings. It includes a lot of feng shui concepts, although the teachers won't make that clear. That's right. But what does Yuan have to do with feng shui? How should I put it? Nova scratched his head, thinking for several seconds before continuing. People believe that mountains, water, terrain, and all things gather some form of energy. Perhaps with the current technological level, it is not possible to detect these energies, but they do indeed exist. Yes, but that still has nothing to do with the script we are discussing. Let us focus on the script. Don't be in a hurry, it is very relevant. Everyone knows that the Maya highly revered nature. When they built houses, they wouldn't even remove small mounds of earth from the ground. Instead, they would adapt their buildings to follow the contours of these mounds. This is also reflected in the script. Nova pointed to the stone tablet in his hand. You see, once these inscriptions are completed, they resemble either lotus flowers or other blossoms, or water, or flames. The Eastern observer recalled, and indeed agreed. The flame pattern looks just like a burst of fire, doesn't it? Initially, I thought they designed these shapes as flowers simply because they revered nature. But that is not the case. If I slightly alter the stroke direction, all functionalities would cease to work. Nova picked up another stone tablet. The inscriptions on the 2 tablets were indistinguishable to the naked eye, but one had a small water droplet, while the other had nothing. You see, it's like this. Until we discovered their computers on the far side of the moon, and then accidentally remembered the principles of geomancy, it suddenly dawned on me. They condensed nature into their script. This ties back to geomancy. Everything can gather energy. What is negative energy? What does it mean to hide the wind and gather energy? What is energy? A flash of insight crossed the Eastern observer's eyes as he connected the dots. Why do only people from this country believe in geomancy? Perhaps during conversations, some Maya heard snippets that were recorded by people from this country, who then diligently studied them. Which is why they believe that the essence of geomancy is the unity of heaven, earth, and humanity. This connects with the Maya's reverence for nature. Geomancy may have nothing to do with superstition. The ancient people of this country might have simply been exploring the application of energy, yet no one understood, thinking it was superstition. Now, the functional tablets are the best evidence. Therefore, I meticulously studied every stroke of the script. I found them to be incredibly precise. I couldn't afford any mistakes, or else the functional tablets would have no effect. Chapter 149. Foundation of the Hospital. The Eastern Observer fell silent. This was a groundbreaking discovery that completely overturned previous understanding. Following Nova's findings, it may indeed be possible to engrave this script onto skin. For example, the life script has extraordinary effects on the young camel. It's simply unbelievable. Could it be that once it's engraved on the skin, all human pain will heal on its own? Is there really a form of energy script, like the chi spoken of in the teachings of Taoism, the kind that can be cultivated? The Eastern Observer contemplated many possibilities. Nova, these inscriptions truly achieve the unity of heaven and earth, but what about humans? Why are humans excluded from this? Captain, your considerations are more thorough. I only found some inspiration in ancient texts, and the final result may resemble it. Or perhaps the Maya drew from the thoughts of ancient scholars, enhancing their own knowledge structure. So the most likely scenario is mutual influence and learning. What do you think the vertical-eyed figures in the murals represent? Perhaps the artist deliberately portrayed them differently to distinguish them from ordinary people. Maybe their appearance is similar to that of ancient scholars? Yes, the Eastern scholar slapped his thigh. Look at the mural. No one dares to look up at the person offering the jade tablet. How could they know what that person looks like? Maybe there's just a halo above their head, or nothing at all. The vertical eye could symbolize the ability to see through everything. Nova fell silent. Both he and the light brain were lost in thought. After a long while, Nova spoke again. Just like discovering the mandala flower on planet C. Is it a physical universe? He then confirmed his own speculation. It must be. It seems you're right. The jade tablets hide a great secret. Yes. Their conversation abruptly halted, as if both were shaken by their discussion's conclusion. The Eastern scholar lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He had an absurd feeling. Technology doesn't seem to be the only way out. Perhaps the realm of technology is not just about the in-depth development of physics, but also life sciences. Maybe another direction for technological development. Achieving holiness in the physical form. Forget it, I don't want to think about it. With a mind full of doubts, he fell into a deep sleep. The next day at 9 o'clock, the Eastern scholar opened his eyes on time. He had gone to bed too late the previous night, so he didn't wake up as usual at 6 o'clock, but still an hour before dawn. He practiced dual operations, sweating profusely. Just as he sat down at the dining table, ready to eat, the phone rang. Chairman, are you available now? It was the director of the administrative office, Wang Tao. I'm having breakfast. The Eastern scholar picked up a bowl of millet porridge and took a sip, feeling comfortable. He thought milk was better left for the Russians. This millet is nourishing. The tumor hospital led by General Zhang Chong is ready. As I reported earlier, the groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for 3 o'clock this afternoon. I would like to ask if you have time to attend. Have you invited the leaders? The Eastern scholar knew that with Zhang Chong's character, he would never hold such time-wasting groundbreaking ceremonies. His dream is to let more patients receive treatment as soon as possible to alleviate their suffering. Yes, since we are to serve the patients, we must promote it well. Otherwise, who would come to your private hospital for treatment? In this day and age, even good wine fears a deep alley. So we have invited the main leaders from the county, and also Mayor Zhao Jinyu. The Eastern scholar nodded in agreement. Gao Yuan had indeed grown a lot. If it were up to Zhang Chong, he would never hold what he considers meaningless activities that waste time and money. He wishes to complete the hospital in a day so that patients can be relieved of their suffering as soon as possible. All right, then I will attend. Have all the major media outlets been invited? We must create a significant impact and vigorously promote this. Once it's established, we can immediately start treating patients. Rest assured, our relationship with the media is solid, and given that this is a matter that benefits the public, the mainstream media in our country will definitely send representatives. After hanging up the phone, Dongfang quickly finished his breakfast and went out. In the villa area specifically constructed for the executives of the company, a flash of blue light appeared as Dongfang reached the rooftop of his assigned villa. It's becoming quite troublesome. The number of people in the company is increasing, making it difficult to access the rooftop directly. With a hearty laugh, he swiftly walked into the room. When he came out again, he was already dressed in the company's uniform. 2 tall men wearing black sunglasses followed him. Soon, the electric vehicle from the company stopped in front of the building. Since he didn't enter through the main door, no one was there to greet him. It wasn't until he returned to his office that the secretary at the door reported his return. Gao Yuan was the first to arrive. Chairman, you really are quite leisurely with your hands-off approach. Gao Yuan chuckled. But with you around, I can relax. Dongfang took a document from the mountain of papers on his desk and began reviewing it while chatting with Gao Yuan. Please have a seat. Chairman, the second-generation graphene battery has been successfully developed with further improvements in energy storage. Additionally, there is good news from the automotive manufacturing company. They have developed a new type of special vehicle after thoroughly understanding the technology you provided them. It's already been finalized and is undergoing various tests. The military has shown great interest and is expected to make large-scale purchases. The graphene batteries are also very popular in the market, and sales of helmets have increased by over 50. Currently, the company's liquid assets stand at 100 billion. Can we start personnel reserves for our aerospace factory? Gao Yuan sat down opposite Dongfang and detailed the recent developments in the company. We can start the reserves. Dongfang nodded. With the company's continuous expansion, the number of talents is rapidly increasing. Whatever they do, the efficiency is naturally very high, which was expected by Dongfang. You mentioned before about the launch base, telling me not to rush, but the company is almost established, and there isn't much land left in the park. Should we acquire another piece? Gao Yuan paused after taking a sip of water. No need. This place isn't suitable for rocket launches. I mean, I am a hands-off manager. But I have actually been working on desertification recently. The natural conditions in the desert are more suitable for launches. If all goes well, in 2 months, we will have a perfect launch base. All right, then I have nothing else to discuss. Gao Yuan was already numb to Dongfang's ambitious plans. Even if he said he would land on the moon tomorrow, Gao Yuan wouldn't have any doubts. Even though Dongfang reviewed documents at an incredibly fast pace, it still took him several hours to complete all his work. After a hasty lunch at the restaurant, he headed to the groundbreaking site. Chapter 150, Late Stage. Is it possible? As Dongfang stood beside the cornerstone, a line of black luxury cars came to a stop at the construction site. Dongfang, along with Gao Yuan, Wang Tao, and a few others, hurriedly approached the car. Zhao Jinyu had already pushed the door open and stepped out. Fenger, I can't help but think of my late brother. Upon seeing Dongfang, he immediately transformed into a carefree demeanor, leaving the staff from the municipal office in shock. This was the first time they had seen Zhao Jinyu in such a relaxed state. He closed the car door and carefully scanned everyone from the Earthring Company, especially focusing on Dongfang, who stood tall and handsome, looking exceptionally young. He firmly etched this person in his mind, realizing that Dongfang's relationship with the municipal leader was extraordinary. Dongfang and Zhao Jinyu shook hands tightly, just as the staff member had thought. Their relationship was indeed special. Brother Yu, it's been a long time since we last met. You are quite the busy person. Haha, since coming to the city, I'm just a deputy, basically a workhorse. If it weren't for your foundation ceremony today, I might not have had the time to see you. As the two were shaking hands, numerous media personnel raised their cameras, capturing this historic moment. Zhang Chang wrote in his memoirs that this was the world's first specialized hospital capable of treating cancer. For us, dealing with cancer was as trivial as having a toothache. I can still vividly recall the historic handshake between the chairman and Zhao, the then deputy municipal leader of Yanqing. Soon, this hospital became the focus of the world. Patients from various countries flocked to it. This was the pinnacle of my time on Blue Planet. The two finally released their hands and turned to walk towards the cornerstone together. Today, it was the star of the show, adorned with red ribbons and flowers, standing proudly in the center. By the time Dongfang and the leaders reached the stone, the staff from Earthring Company had already presented a shovel tied with a red ribbon. Distinguished guests, leaders, comrades, and dear media friends, good afternoon. Dongfang took the microphone handed to him by Wang Tao and cleared his throat. This was Dongfang's first public appearance. Well, technically the second. It wasn't my style. Nor was it the style of the Earthring Company. The main reason for holding today's groundbreaking ceremony and inviting everyone here was to promote ourselves. And I'm not afraid of being laughed at. This is a specialized oncology hospital, specifically for treating cancer. And I can confidently tell everyone that our hospital's cure rate for cancer can exceed 90. Dongfang paused confidently, ready to welcome the audience's applause, but unfortunately, the crowd remained silent. Each person was internally echoing the same thought. What the heck? The owner of this company must have lost his mind. No medical institution in the world, including those in the so-called leading countries, would dare to make such a claim. Among the quiet crowd, there was one exception, Zhang Chang. He thought the leader spoke very well, clearly articulated the strengths of their hospital. Therefore, in the quiet crowd, his applause sounded particularly loud. Zhao Jinyu couldn't stand it any longer and also started clapping. With his encouragement, all the officials quickly joined in. Gradually, the applause filled the venue. Dongfang stood in place, scratching his head. He didn't expect that after speaking a few truths, no one would believe him. However, the expected effect had been achieved. He seemed to foresee tomorrow's trending topic. The mysterious chairman of the company appeared and claimed to be able to cure cancer. Whether it was true or just for attention, we'll have to wait and see. When the applause finally subsided, Dongfang picked up the microphone again. Haha, I believe everyone won't believe it. But when the hospital is completed and the first patient is discharged, everyone will definitely remember what I said today, and that day won't be too far off. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's invite Mayor Zhao to lay the first shovel of earth. The leaders from the municipal and county governments quickly formed a circle. As Zhao Jinyu finished filling the soil, he immediately followed up, soon burying the stone in the middle. Hey, you launched such a big satellite today without discussing it with me. It really took me by surprise. Zhao Jinyu didn't leave after sending the staff away. He followed Dongfang back to the office. It had been a long time since they had seen each other, and he wanted to take this opportunity to catch up. Hee. Brother you, didn't I just launch a satellite? When have I ever gone back on my word? Zhao Jinyu sat up from the couch, his expression becoming quite serious. Is it really not for publicity? Just like I said earlier, you wait and see. No, I mean, has medical technology matured now? Is it applicable? Of course. It can be realized in the laboratory right now. Seeing Zhao Jinyu's serious expression, Dongfang realized there was indeed something important, so he spoke earnestly. As long as we obtain the tissue from the lesion and find the toxic T cells, I can guarantee it can be treated well. Zhao Jinyu jumped up from the couch. Brother, you must help me. His eyes were a bit red. Don't worry, take your time. What's going on? Our relationship doesn't require saying help. It's only natural. To be honest, without you standing behind me, shielding me from the storm, the development of the company wouldn't be so smooth. Who knows what trouble might pop up? Dongfang was a bit excited too. Having such a prominent figure from the capital make a request meant he might be in real trouble. Does your sister-in-law know? I've heard you mention her, but I haven't met her yet. It's actually about your sister-in-law's grandfather. He is from the same era as the old man. And he is the one surnamed Wang. He is 85 years old, and his illness has made him unrecognizable. This is also why I'm working alone. Your sister-in-law is at home taking care of her grandfather. Can you treat this illness? The doctor said it's terminal and can only maintain. In the end, Zhao Jinyu felt somewhat uncertain, watching his wife cry all day long, feeling very uncomfortable inside. He had done everything he could, the best hospital, the best doctors, except for not being able to go abroad. He let out a long sigh. I said it's possible, do you believe me? But the old man has to come to the company. Is it really possible? Zhao Jinyu felt like his heart was about to jump out. 2 years. A full 2 years. Every time he saw his wife, her heavy-hearted expression made him feel heart-wrenching pain, because they fell in love freely. This was also the reason why his family did not welcome him. Because of the old man's illness, the Wang family was no longer what it used to be. Those petty individuals believed the Wang family was not a good match at all. If the old man's health improves, then no problem. I'll arrange for an ambulance from the capital's hospital to bring him over. You can't lie to me. The old man really can't stand any more turmoil. Don't worry. Dongfang said with a serious expression, I guarantee to return you and your wife a healthy grandfather. Good. Zhao Jinyu shook Dongfang's hand vigorously. All right, nothing more to say. Brother noted it down. Chapter 151, Old Man Wang. Brother you, we don't have much to say, but now there is still a challenge. The old man is getting older and might not withstand another surgery. Zhao Jinyu rubbed his hands, recalling another difficulty. Don't worry, just let the old man come directly. Leave the tissue removal to me. You can rest assured. Zhao Jinyu hurried away, not even having time for dinner. Because he needed to go back to the unit to request leave, then wait for his wife to bring the old man to the company. Once Zhao Jinyu left, the county leaders naturally wouldn't stay any longer. A group of people stood up and left in a rush. Dongfang had no choice but to gather the company staff for a nice meal. The night passed without a word, and Dongfang went to bed early in the big villa. The next day at 6 o'clock a.m., as soon as Dongfang opened his eyes, a phone call came in. Brother you so early? Disturbing someone's sweet dream is not a good habit. Haha, as you said, we don't have much to say. I arranged everything yesterday. Got a motorhome for the old man. He should be quite comfortable sleeping. He'll probably arrive in about an hour. Are you ready on your side? Your sister-in-law hasn't slept for 10 hours. Don't worry, it's all ready. Dongfang couldn't possibly tell him that he had enjoyed a big meal with the employees and went to bed early. All right, I'll hang up. Dongfang sat up and quickly got dressed. He picked up the phone and dialed out. Boss, so early. Zhang Chang's slightly hoarse voice came through. Apparently, he had partied hard last night and was still groggy. Hurry up, we have an important person coming to see the doctor. Arrange things on your side. Oh, is it that soon? I got it. Zhang Chang hung up the phone, threw off the blanket, and in a flurry, got dressed while holding the phone to his ear and dialing several calls. Until everything was arranged properly, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. At 7:20 in the morning, a massive RV drove into the company. It then followed the park road and arrived at the villa area. Dongfang stood outside the villa, watching the large Cadillac Escalade slowly approach. Wow, is this a bus? When the door opened, Zhao Jinyu stepped down from the vehicle. Brother you, this isn't something your salary can afford. Tell me, did you get a windfall? Dongfang teased. Well, my sister-in-law's family is in business, and this was bought with their parents' money. My salary can only buy a tire. Oh, what business is your sister-in-law's family in? Since my sister-in-law's parents don't like politics, they started a business early on involving energy, real estate, and manufacturing. Zhao Jinyu's words were interrupted as a beautiful woman stepped out of the vehicle. Long flowing hair, fair skin, big watery eyes, and a tall figure. She must be over 170 centimeters tall, wearing a knee-length white down jacket. Her looks were above 90 points. However, perhaps due to her grandfather's illness, she had heavy dark circles under her eyes. Stop joking, is this Dongfang? She walked up behind Zhao Jinyu, patted his shoulder, and her soft, gentle voice reached Dongfang's ears. Zhao Jinyu turned around, took her hand, and there was love flowing in their gazes. It seemed this was true love. Yes, Dongfang, this is your sister-in-law, Wang Zhilan, my wife. Zhao Jinyu raised his hand, his face full of wrinkles that could form a flower. Hello, sister-in-law, I'm Dongfang. Dongfang extended his hand and shook hands with the gentlewoman. You look so young. Your brother Yu has been praising you to the skies. Truly young and promising. He must have some insight, just like when he married me back then. As they chatted, an elderly man dressed in an old-style military uniform, bald and unusually thin, was helped down from the vehicle by two nurses in white coats. What's so funny? Let Grandpa hear it. He slowly walked over to the group, his voice exceptionally loud. If one didn't look at his appearance, they would think he was a healthy elder. After asking, he shook off the hand supporting him. Don't help me. I'm perfectly fine. If you give me a gun, I could still go to the battlefield and fight. Seeing this, Zhao Jinyu and Wang Zhilan quickly moved to his side, supporting the somewhat unsteady elder. He struggled a couple of times, but given his weakened state, there was no way he could break free. Yet he still refused to admit defeat. Grandpa is in good health. Those little devils didn't defeat me back then. This minor illness won't defeat me either. All right. We know. You've definitely gotten tired from sitting in the car all night. Let's rest first. Zhao Jinyu made a face at Dongfang, his expression full of helplessness. Old Wang, you're right. Illness definitely can't defeat you. Facing illness requires a mindset like yours. Dongfang pointed to the villa behind him and said, this is the villa we built. You can stay here during your treatment. The old man replied warmly, young man, you are quite impressive. Back in the day, I wasn't afraid of the enemy. So why should I be afraid of a little illness? Don't worry, my mindset is great. He patted Dongfang's shoulder affectionately. When we ran out of bullets back then, we fought with bayonets. When those got dull, we switched to swords, and if that didn't work, we used our teeth. We would bite to death those damn enemies. Look, we won in the end. Dongfang felt a wave of invincible spirit wash over him. This was a revolutionary warrior forged in blood and fire. Someone to be remembered and respected for a lifetime. Without their sacrifices, there would be no happiness and stability today. He was determined to ensure the old man got better. Even if it meant using advanced technology with some exposure risks, it was worth it. I understand. You should rest for a bit. The lab is ready. Soon we'll take some tissue samples for your treatment. All right. The old man agreed straightforwardly, assisted by a nurse into the villa. Zhao Jinyu and Wang Zhilin did not enter with them. He tightly grasped Dongfang's hand, saying, Fang, I can't thank you enough. If there are any business issues in the future, just tell your sister-in-law. Whether it's borrowing funds or anything else, just say the word. Wang Zhilin remained silent, just looking at Dongfang and nodding firmly. Brother, sister-in-law is tired too. Let her have some breakfast and rest a bit. I'll come to pick you up at 9 o'clock. Zhao Jinyu said no more, holding his wife's hand as they turned to enter the villa. As he climbed the stairs, he subtly gave Dongfang a thumbs up behind his back. Haha, Dongfang smiled and turned to leave, planning to check on the biological laboratory first. After all, asking them to perform non-invasive or minimally invasive surgeries to take tissue samples wasn't realistic. He needed to prepare himself in advance. Chapter 152. What is the flavor? Dongfang sat in the vehicle, soon arriving at the biological laboratory center located in the northern part of the company park. The protective measures at the biological laboratory were even stricter, as it required a sterile environment for cell proliferation. Therefore, Dongfang underwent 3 rounds of disinfection and donned protective clothing before he could enter the core area of the biological laboratory. Boss, we're all set. Has the old man arrived? Zhang Chong had been waiting at the entrance, fully equipped, with not a hint of skin exposed. If he hadn't spoken, Dongfang wouldn't have recognized him. Not yet. I'm here to take a look first. All right, let me show you. Our equipment is actually divided into 4 main categories: sample preservation, sample pretreatment, process analysis, and cleaning and sterilization categories. Preservation category includes ultra-low temperature freezers, liquid nitrogen tanks, and pharmaceutical refrigerators. Sample pretreatment category: pipettes, centrifuges, freeze dryers, homogenizers, incubators, biosafety cabinets, and clean benches. Process analysis category includes PCR machines, microplate readers, nucleic acid extractors, darkroom UV analyzers, electrophoresis equipment, and more. cleaning and sterilization category, autoclaves, and ultrasonic cleaners. Zhang Chang introduced the laboratory instruments in detail as he walked, clearly showing that he had put in a lot of effort. He was well-versed in each instrument, and his explanations were clear. Not bad. Dongfang patted him on the shoulder to encourage him. This is just the beginning. I can't let you down. Zhang Chang smiled shyly and clenched his fist tightly. It was not easy for him to gain the boss's recognition. Moreover, this was the first time he had physical contact. He silently encouraged himself to do even better in the future. Very good. Do you have any research or exploration regarding the acquisition of patient tissues? Yes, but some patients are too weak, and we currently don't have good methods. Minimally invasive surgery is still surgery. It depends on the patient's tolerance. Sigh. Chairman, we still have a long way to go. Don't be discouraged. Our technology hasn't reached that level yet. But regarding that patient you mentioned, if we could extract his lesion tissue, it would be easier. What if he can't tolerate the minimally invasive surgery? Don't worry, I came prepared this time. Just get ready for the proliferation of toxic T cells. After speaking, Dongfang took a glass bottle from his protective suit pocket, which contained a silver capsule, and handed it to Zhang Chang. Chairman, how do we use this? This is the first-generation nanorobot I just developed. Originally, I intended to use it for a precise drug delivery experiment, but we cannot wait for the old man's condition. So, I rewrote the program. It will gather at the lesion when passing through the intestines, create a small 5-nanometer opening, and enter the lesion. After extracting the surviving T cells, it will return along the same path outside the tumor. The nanorobots left outside the tumor will emit a small heat ray to seal the wound, returning to the shape of a capsule and being expelled from the colon. Then we can obtain the sample. Zhang Chang was stunned. He had long known that the boss was impressive, but he never expected it to be to this extent. It was truly unexpected. It was said that the mechanical equipment manufacturing plant and the physics laboratory were indeed developing nanorobots, but they were still far from completion. Boss, this is already a result. Was there a team behind him? Composed entirely of top experts from various fields, any technological problem could be easily solved by them. Or perhaps the boss was an alien. No. His background was clear. Aliens were unlikely. He shook his head vigorously, trying to dismiss such thoughts. What are you doing? Dongfang was quite curious about the young man who was shaking his head vigorously. What he didn't know was that Zhang Chang had almost figured out his background, but he didn't dare to be certain. Haha, it's nothing. Just marveling at how impressive the boss is. Zhang Chang took the glass bottle and quickly walked over to the safe, carefully placing it inside. Everything was ready, just waiting for the right organization. No, it was just waiting for the old man's group. You wait here, I'll go fetch the old man. Dongfang thought to himself, settling Zhang Chang down before heading out. When Dongfang arrived at the small villa, the old man and a few others were already standing on the steps at the entrance. Zhao Jinyu was busy dialing his own phone. It seemed he was really anxious. Dongfang hurriedly got out of the car and ran a few steps to join them. Grandpa Wang, have we kept you waiting long? We're setting off now. Haha, young Dongfang. No rush, no rush. It's been a few years, what's another moment? It's my 2 grandsons who are impatient. Grandpa. Wang Zhilan shook the old man's arm, reminding him that no matter how old they got, they were still just kids in front of their elders. At that moment, Dongfang thought of his own grandmother, who had been alone for over 10 years. He decided to send a bionic robot to take care of her and promised himself to visit her more often. Dongfang wiped his eyes and muttered to himself, haha, the sandstorm is really strong today. Let's set off. Without further words, they quickly arrived at the biological laboratory. Brother, you and your wife need to wait outside the operating room for a bit. We need to perform a minimally invasive surgery to ensure the old man suffers no harm. With you saying that, I feel reassured. The old man changed into a sterile hospital gown and was pushed into the operating room. As soon as he entered, Wang Lao started to laugh. What are you young ones doing, all bundled up? Afraid I won't recognize you? No wonder the old man said that. Zhang Chang and the others were still in sterile gowns, and besides their goggles, nothing was visible. Our lab has these conditions. Please bear with us. Hey, this can be managed. Is this the first time I've heard of minimally invasive surgery? No need for anesthesia. Back in my day when I was fighting. You're still in good shape. Zhang Hao, while the old man was not paying attention, took a capsule from the glass bottle and held out a cup of water to Wang Lao. Oh, this medicine looks nice. It's not some iron lump, is it? Just as he was speaking, Zhang Chang placed the medicine into his mouth and followed it up with a sip of water. Be gentler, will you? Am I some enemy? Almost choked me. Zhang Chang then put an oxygen mask on him. What does this taste? It's different from what I usually breathe. Forget it. You probably one team mess it up. Let me tell you, during those years I fought. The old man began to reminisce about his past. And within 5 minutes, he had fallen asleep, snoring loudly. It seemed he was indeed tired. Zhang Chang watched him with a smile. Well, of course, it tastes different. This is ether, used for anesthesia? Outside the operating room, Zhao Jinyu sat calmly, constantly reassuring his wife and daughter-in-law. Don't worry, This kid said it would be fine. So it will definitely be fine. I tell you, his company has one piece of cutting-edge technology after another. Yes, sister-in-law, just relax. Seeing her grip on Zhao Jinyu's hand turning pale, Dongfang offered some comfort. I know, but I'm just worried. You two don't have to worry about me. How can that be? You are my daughter-in-law. If I don't care about you, who will? An hour later, the door of the operating room opened, and Mr. Wang was pushed out by Zhang Chong. At that moment, the old man was still a bit dazed, but upon seeing his grandson, he immediately spoke up. I didn't expect these masked kids to have such good skills. The surgery went smoothly. I didn't even notice the wound. And it didn't hurt at all. It's just that I had to wait until I could relieve myself before I could come out. That was uncomfortable. Grandpa, it's fine as long as you're okay. We should thank them. Thank them? Of course. Thank you. Dongfang was amused. They say old people are just like children. And it's true. No worries, Grandpa Wang. You can go back to rest now. We'll officially start the treatment in 3 days. Good kid. That's my style. Decisive and efficient. Your team is pretty good too. Quick and capable. The old man laughed heartily as he was pushed out the door. Chapter 153. What to do if you can't inject 3 days passed quickly, and on the morning of January 15th, Dongfang arrived early at the villa where Mr. Wang lived. Upon entering, he found Zhao Jinyu and his wife already waiting in the living room. Come, sit down. The old man hasn't gotten up yet. Let's chat for a bit. Okay, Dongfang replied and walked over to sit on the sofa. In the past 3 days, Dongfang had already communicated several times with Zhao Jinyu and his wife. He learned that Wang Zhilan's family had indeed achieved remarkable success in business. Not fond of administrative work, Wang Zhilan's parents had given up their jobs early on to venture into business. In the 1980s, when information was still relatively backward, they took advantage of their information edge and quickly accumulated their first batch of initial capital. They then opened the first large retail store in the capital. At that time, as long as there were goods, there was no possibility of not selling them. Thus, running a large retail store was almost like picking up money within a few years. By the mid-20s, they had accumulated a substantial amount of capital. With more capital at hand, they chose to invest in the most profitable industries. Everyone knows that making money with money is the fastest way. By the 1990s, the Wang family's accumulated funds had exceeded 100 million. They ventured into real estate, energy, and machinery manufacturing. Whatever was profitable, they did. However, due to their status, they operated very discreetly and were not well known. Currently, the Wang family's funds had at least exceeded 200 billion. However, in recent years, the company's development had reached a bottleneck, with various emerging industries springing up like mushrooms after rain. The Wang family's original business model and information advantages were no longer what they used to be. Therefore, they were actively seeking new development opportunities. Fang, feel free to ask for anything you need. There is plenty of funds available. Dongfang chuckled. After a lifetime of saving, he thought he had more wealth than this. It was merely a year and a half of his income. You go. I want to hold back if I need help. Don't worry. In fact, Yugo was mistaken. They still required Dongfang's assistance. Our business has entered a vicious cycle. To put it bluntly, we're like a setting sun. Apart from having some money, we are far from your level. You have to help my sister-in-law. Wang Zhilan noticed Dongfang's unease and quickly laid out her company's situation. Dongfang fell into deep thought. The Wang family had been in business for years, establishing a complex and deeply rooted network in the domestic market. Their connections were what he needed, but those sunset industries, well, that was another story. Sister-in-law? Nobody really helps anyone. We all help each other. However, the situation with the Dihuan company has grown quite large. We are currently in the process of integrating and upgrading. Once we are finished, we can have a deeper discussion. Dongfang didn't agree immediately. He planned to consider everything before making a decision. All right, even if we establish a new joint venture, that is also feasible. Wang Zhilan's tone was very humble, indicating that the Wang family was indeed facing tough times. Understood, sister-in-law. At that moment, Dongfang's phone rang. It was Zhang Chong, who had arrived with a helmet and medicine. You go. Let us pause our conversation for now. The medicine is on the way. Let us see if the old man is awake. Zhao Jinyu and his wife stood up and headed upstairs. Before they reached the lower floor, there was a knock on the door. Zhang Chong entered with a staff member from a biological laboratory. One was carrying a briefcase, while the other held a black box adorned with a starry sky, creating a dreamlike atmosphere. In the corner of the box, silver characters read Huang Liang Yimeng, a dream of millet. As Zhao Jinyu and the others came downstairs, they saw Dongfang taking a helmet out of the box. Fang, are you treating him while playing a game? Is it going to hurt? Yes, you're right. Here, treating illnesses requires playing games. Does the old man like to play? He does like it, but I'm old, and I'm afraid I want to know how to play. Besides, I prefer games where you fight against enemies. Can I play those? The old man smiled broadly, finding the treatment method of Di Huan Company quite unique. Healing through gaming instead of dealing with the unpleasant smell of disinfectants, all from the comfort of home. Great. You can play anything as long as you can think of it. Dongfang looked at Zhao Jinyu and his wife with a hint of a smile. This is a new therapy, a global first, with significant results. Anyone who plays will know. Zhao Gu, are you brave enough to let the old man give it a try? What's there to worry about? I trust you completely. The old man is in your hands. Do as you please. Wang Lao raised his hand and patted Zhao Jinyu on the head. What are you saying? I just want to play, not be treated. Grandpa, you know Jinyu didn't mean it that way. Wang Jilan defended her husband, showing that their relationship was indeed strong. Without further ado, let's get started. Dongfang chuckled and pointed to the lounge chair in the living room, saying, Old Wang, just lie down here and leave the rest to us. Do you want an injection? I'm terrified of needles. The usually tough old man surprisingly showed reluctance. You're not afraid of enemy gunfire, but you're scared of a shot. Dongfang's eyes widened in astonishment. Haha, so, you mean lying here, right? The old man felt a bit embarrassed and willingly lay back in the chair, displaying a look of surrender to Dongfang's arrangement. However, the slightly open corner of his eyes revealed everything. As soon as Zhang Chong saw the old man settled, he didn't waste any time and opened his briefcase to take out an enforced set. He froze in place. What's wrong? Dongfang asked when he saw Zhang Chong dazed. Boss, I forgot. I seem to not know how to give injections. Laughter erupted in the living room. Who would have thought that the seemingly professional Zhang Chong was actually a novice? I'll do it, said the health nurse, stepping forward to take the equipment from Zhang Chong's hands. Zhang Chong looked up and saw a nurse with big eyes, an oval face, and slightly tanned skin. However, from the touch, her skin was delicate and smooth. Her unmade-up face appeared extremely pure, reminiscent of his middle school desk mate. His heart nearly melted. If only this adorable girl had longer hair. Noticing Zhang Chong's bashful expression, Dongfang immediately understood. He leaned closer to Zhao Jinyu and asked, Does this nurse have a boyfriend? Why are you getting all flustered? No boyfriend. Should I set you up? Zhao Jinyu replied with a lewd grin. This girl is great. Her family's well off. And her figure is good. After saying that, he puffed out his chest. What nonsense are you talking about? Did you not see her? Why are you trying to play matchmaker? Besides, how do you know about Xiao Jia's figure? Wang Jilan protested, pushing Zhao Jinyu. I was too busy laughing and didn't notice. You haven't solved your own issues, yet you're trying to play matchmaker? Seeing his wife upset, Zhao Jinyu quickly changed the subject. Hey, in my company, most of the senior executives are single. I need to consider their lifelong matters. That's what a good boss should do. Just then, while they were teasing each other, the nurse had already inserted the 4 into the old man's hand. There were 3 bottles of medicine in the box, 1 large and 2 small. The large one was milky white, and the small ones were transparent. Old man, this large one is protein, and the small ones are the special medication. We only need 4 bottles a day, but it might hurt a bit. You can put on the helmet and play a game, she explained. Pain is no problem. Hurry up and put it on for me. I want to try fighting the enemies. Since the protein was just inserted, he felt nothing at all. All right. Zhang Chong skillfully helped the old man put on the helmet and pressed the start button. After completing all this, he turned to the nearby lady and said, Change to the special medication in 20 minutes, and after that, continue with the protein. The second bottle is the same. Sure. Is there anything else to pay attention to? The girl, referred to as Xiao Jia by Wang Jilan, nodded, her big eyes sparkling as she stared at Zhang Chong. Oh dear, I wonder if she has a partner. Hey, why aren't you speaking? Stop staring. The nurse, feeling a bit shy, waved her hand in front of his eyes. Well, I have something to attend to now. Do you have WeChat? Let us add each other as friends and chat. Zhang Chong is such a scoundrel. Dongfang noticed the two whispering for a moment. Then Zhang Chong walked over to him. Chairman, I just remembered I have some matters in the lab. I'll go take care of them first. If anything comes up, I'll contact Xiao Jia. After saying that, he didn't wait for Dongfang to respond and hurriedly left. Look, they hit it off. Zhao Jinyu wore a knowing expression, stroking his chin with a mysterious smile. The old man had no idea about their conversation. After Zhang Chong put the helmet on him, he felt a darkness in front of him. As he opened his eyes to adjust, he found himself in a beautiful forest filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. The sound of a brook flowed nearby, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled light on the ground. A warm breeze blew gently, and a wave of drowsiness washed over him. The old man felt his eyelids getting heavy. If only there were a bed, he thought. I really want to take a nice long nap. He yawned and walked along the little path, taking steps that were sometimes deep and sometimes shallow. Suddenly, at the end of the path, he spotted a small wooden house, built in a clearing of the forest. Sunlight enveloped the little house. The old man looked up and felt as if he were seeing his childhood home. Mom, he called softly, rushing into the small house with quick steps. Unfortunately, he didn't see his mother, but there was a bed inside the house. The old man climbed onto it, took a deep breath, and filled his lungs with the scent of sunshine. Yes, this is home. At that moment, he could no longer resist his drowsiness. He closed his eyes and knew nothing more. Son, wake up. It's time to go into the mountains. No, I want to sleep a little longer. No way. The enemy is coming. At the mention of the enemy, Wang Mingxian jumped up in a hurry. Yes, the old man's name is Wang Mingxian. His home is in a neighboring province, in the well-known commercial city of Pingyao. During the Qing dynasty, there were countless merchants from Shaanxi, often referred to as red-topped merchants, and Wang Mingxian's family was in the fabric business. In the ancient city, they were considered prominent figures, but when the enemy invaded in 37, the painful life began. Wang Mingxian was born in 35, so since he could remember, the most terrifying thing in the city was the enemy. So, upon hearing that the enemy was coming, he immediately got up. Why am I so bare? Mom looks so young, where exactly am I? Why do I feel a sense of déjà vu? Oh right, today is New Year's Eve. After today, I'll be 8 years old. Mom, what good food are we having today? All you think about is eating, you don't focus on your studies. Since the family is free these days, hurry up and study. His mother lovingly patted his bare bottom. I want to study. I want to practice skills to fight the enemy, who allows him to always bully us. Wang Mingxian shouted while putting on the clothes handed to him by his mother. You little rascal, keep your voice down. What if the invaders hear you? Oh, in our house, they can't hear. Nonsense. Didn't we just say they are coming? Do you think I'm lying to you? They are coming to our Wang family fabric shop to buy materials. The invaders also buy from us. Is that not true? You need to eat and wear clothes, and after eating, you have to study. To fight the invaders, you need knowledge. Otherwise, how will you use those advanced aircraft and artillery? After his mother said this, Wang Mingxian fell silent. Yeah, otherwise, how could they fly up to bomb the invaders? He nodded, quickly got dressed, and ran to the dining room to eat. Although it was New Year's, after listening to his mother's advice, Wang Mingxian began to study seriously. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye, and it was now 1945. On another New Year's Eve, Wang Mingxian had grown into a teenager. He was no longer as carefree as before. Instead, he was more measured and practical, earning the recognition of his teacher. Xianer, today the invaders are coming to buy fabric again. You should come with me to meet them. You need to recognize them. In the future, the Wang family's business will be handed over to you. Father, isn't there an older brother? I'm still young. Don't mention that good for nothing. He just knows how to waste money and indulge himself. I've worked hard to save this fortune, and he has squandered more than half of it. But my older brother is still young. Still young? He's 18 years old, and he's not even as capable as you, a 10-year-old. Stop talking nonsense and come with me. Wang Mingxuan's father led the way, and he slowly followed. He actually planned to take over the family business since his brother was quite incompetent. But he didn't want to deal with the invaders. Forget it, after all. The invaders are quite powerful in the city now. The two entered their fabric shop, where 2 men in yellow military uniforms were already standing inside. Wang Mingxian saw his father bend down slightly, and he quickly stepped forward to stand in front of the two. Sir, thank you for your patience. Wang, it hasn't been long. We just arrived. Wang Mingxian discreetly moved back a bit. Damn it, he really didn't want to deal with them. Oh, one must bow their head under the roof. He somewhat understood his father now. Even his father, who was so authoritative at home, could show such a side. That's good. That's good. This is my son, Wang Mingxian. I hope you will take care of him. The invaders laughed heartily and looked at Wang Mingxian with disdain. Oh, how is the fabric preparation going? Our forces have recently faced setbacks on the battlefield and need a large amount of white cotton cloth for bandaging the wounded. Wang Mingxian felt a surge of joy. So the invaders were crying for help now. I thought you needed it for making uniforms. So I prepared plenty of yellow cotton cloth, but there might not be much white cotton cloth. Baka, the leading invader glared. Are you shortchanging us? No. I will prepare it. I will definitely meet your needs. Wang's father wiped the sweat from his forehead, feeling frustrated by the unpredictable behavior of the soldiers. Despite having dealt with them multiple times, it was still the same. Come on, I'm waiting for your good news. After saying this, he casually tossed the money bag he was holding. This is the full payment. Make sure to deliver on time. I need 100 bolts of white cotton and 100 bolts of yellow cotton. Wang Mingxian took a glance at the bag, which could barely hold 30 silver dollars. That wasn't enough. He tugged at his father's sleeve. Baka, how is that not enough? You little brat, haven't you learned math? Do you want to go back to your mother's womb for another 2 years of milk? A second soldier, overhearing this, immediately turned around and shouted at the father and son, laughing mockingly, clearly looking down on them. There's enough. The kid doesn't understand. Wang's father quickly handed the money bag back to the leading soldier. There's a bit extra. Here's your change. The soldier didn't refuse, took the bag, and staggered out. Dad, this won't do. Wang's father straightened his back, regaining his composure. Silly child, you can't go against them. They have guns. He continued, from now on, speak less, watch more. Listen well, and learn. Wang Mingxuan's eyes turned red. He had always heard about how bad the soldiers were. But today was the first time he truly saw how cruel they could be. As the soldiers faced continuous defeats on the battlefield, they retreated to various cities, making it difficult to transport goods into town. This posed a challenge for Wang's fabric shop. Despite their efforts, they had plenty of yellow cotton, but still needed 10 bolts of white cotton. This made Wang's father anxious, but there was nothing he could do. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye, and it was time for delivery. 2 soldiers, accompanied by a group of their men, arrived as promised. One soldier stepped forward to carefully count the goods. "Captain, we are short 10 bolts of white cotton." Hearing this, the leading soldier's expression darkened, and he raised his head. "Boss Wang, you're short on the white cotton." Wang's father was sweating profusely. "The city is sealed off, and we've tried every method we could think of. Please grant us an extension of 2 days. I will make it up." Just then, Wang Mingxuan's older brother stumbled over. "Why waste words with these soldiers? They're on the verge of defeat." Defeat. After saying this, he collapsed in front of the fabric, reeking of alcohol, and burped loudly. This was a huge mistake. The soldiers were angered by his words and would not tolerate such disrespect. Realizing this, one soldier immediately drew his gun and shot at Wang Mingxuan's brother. Blood spilled everywhere. Seeing this, Wang's father was furious and, without thinking, pulled out his own gun and fired at the soldier. He vented his anger, but was also shot multiple times. Wang Mingxian stood frozen in shock. What should he do? Dad, brother. Being just a 10-year-old child, he was paralyzed in place, knowing nothing but to cry. "Run, young master. Your father has a plan. Our family cannot be wiped out." At that moment, someone whispered in his ear, pulling him through the door. Behind them, gunfire erupted. Fortunately, neither of them was hit. Once they entered the third courtyard, he was pulled straight into his parents' room. After lifting the bedboard, a tunnel was revealed beneath it. "What are you waiting for? Get in." Only then did he come to his senses a bit and obediently crawled in, jumping into the opening. At that moment, he realized that it was the housekeeper, Uncle Lu, who was pulling him. "Aren't you coming in, Uncle Lu? Where does the tunnel lead?" Seeing him about to close the bedboard, Wang Mingxian hurriedly propped it up and asked. "Our home is right by the city wall. Once you go out, you'll be outside the city. Someone is waiting for you." "I won't go. I want to confront those invaders. I want to see if they are stronger or my grenades are. I need to go with the master. I can't leave him alone." After saying this, he forcefully closed the bedboard. Wang Mingxian was plunged into darkness, and the bedboard above him couldn't be opened from the inside. It seemed he could only get out from the outside. With no choice, he could only cry as he crawled through the tunnel. He hadn't crawled 30 meters when he heard a loud explosion. The soil in the tunnel was shaken loose and fell down. "Dad, brother, Uncle Lu. Whoa." He realized that it was a grenade that had exploded. What's wrong with the old man? Why is he shaking so much? Zhao Jinyu noticed something was off with his grandfather and quickly went to the recliner, taking the old man's hand. "Mr. Zhao, Wang Lao's vital signs are normal. This may just be a reaction to the medication," Nurse Xiao Jia interjected, pointing to the monitoring equipment nearby. "Don't worry, you go, it's very safe. If there's any danger, I'll stop it immediately," Dongfang explained as he walked over to the recliner. Only then did Zhao Jinyu and his wife feel reassured and sit back down on the sofa. Wang Mingxian continued to crawl through the dug tunnel, moving forward incessantly. Every time a gun fired, his body would tremble, and only when he was far enough away to no longer hear the gunfire did he wipe his tears and quicken his pace. Wang Mingxian felt the tunnel was so long. He used all his strength to crawl out, and finally, he saw the end. A beam of light shone down from above, revealing a cover that could be pushed open from the inside. With a gentle push, he crawled out. "You must be Wang Mingxian, right? I've heard about you from your father. They are behind, right?" Just as he steadied himself in the room, a young man in tattered clothes in his 20s grabbed him. "Who are you?" "Haha, little guy. I'm from the 8th Route Army, here to fight the invaders. Where are your father and the others?" Seeing that no one had come up from the tunnel yet, the young man curiously asked. Wang Mingxian had naturally heard of the 8th Route Army, and at that moment, he could no longer hold back and burst into tears. "They're all dead, killed by the invaders." Upon hearing this news, the young man was stunned. His task was to assist in relaying messages from old Wang, but he never expected that those who were fine just yesterday would be gone now. After a long while, he finally raised his hand and placed it on Wang Mingxuan's shoulder, saying, "Don't cry. If anyone bullies us, we'll fight back." A real man sheds blood, but not tears. Although his eyes were red, he managed to hold back his tears. "Now tell me what happened." Wang Mingxian, like a bamboo tube pouring out beans, explained everything clearly. "Don't be afraid. From now on I am your brother. In our unit, we are all your family." Half an hour later, Wang Mingxian finally stopped crying and lay down on the bed, soon falling into a deep sleep. "What should we do? Old Wang has sacrificed," sighed one of them. "What good does it do to talk about it? I think we should just sneak into the tunnel and give those little devils a taste of a landmine." "No way. We still have a mission to deliver intelligence. We can't lose everything here. If you're not going, we will. You keep the intelligence to send, but with old Wang gone, where's the intelligence?" A few of them stood on a small hill not far from the city, arguing incessantly. while behind them was the small wooden cabin where Wang Mingxian was sleeping. The cabin was hidden among a grove of trees, quite secluded, but still a distance from the city. Otherwise, it would have been discovered long ago. Wang Mingxian, lying in bed, heard faint voices outside the door and immediately got up, sneaking to the door to listen. Yes, you deliver the intelligence. And we'll go fight the enemy. You two are really impulsive. I'm the commander, and you both have to listen to me. The enemy in the city is highly alert. They've been beaten badly on the battlefield and are now hunkered down, too scared to come out. It's too risky to go into the city now. We have to fight, but we must be fully prepared. I've never backed down from fighting the enemy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. You two are just too reckless, which is why the organization sent me to keep you in check. We need to think this through. We can't act without proper preparation. Understood. Wang Mingxian peeked through the crack in the door. Besides the person he had just spoken with, there were two others. One was short and stocky, his clothes bulging and ill-fitting, as if they were stolen. The other was taller but thin, wearing tattered clothes that hung on him like a scarecrow. The one speaking to him looked ordinary, someone who would be hard to notice in a crowd. Brother, I know the layout of the city. I can take you there. Wang Mingxian saw how the others quickly quieted down at the words of the one claiming to be the commander. He immediately pushed the door open and stepped outside. What do you know? The short one immediately turned around and rushed to Wang Mingxian's side, asking, I know where the enemy is stationed, how many of them there are, and generally when they come out. Wang Mingxian puffed out his chest, indicating he had a lot of information. Do you know how many guns the enemy has? How many cannons? Where the sentries are stationed? When do they change shifts? How many guards are on the city wall? The short one bombarded him with questions like a machine gun. I'm at a loss for words, Wang Mingxian thought. How could he understand these things? The three of them sighed together, thinking too much. What could a child know? I know there are 200 of them stationed by the city gate. And I also know that they go to the brothel at 7 p.m. Wang Mingxian knew nothing about military strength. He just blurted out everything he knew. Hey! The three of them exclaimed in unison. Are you just going to let them go? They killed my family. I want to kill them and take revenge for my family. Please, my three older brothers, no one else is willing to help me. Wang Mingxian sobbed. Don't worry, from now on, our group will be your family. But there are only a few of us. If we rush in, we might not even get to fight them and instead end up captured in the city. The commander kindly patted his head and held him in his arms. Don't rush, it will be soon. The main force will arrive shortly. Wang Mingxian cried out loudly, hitting the door frame with all his might. From that day on, it was as if Wang Mingxian had become a different person. He took off the silk clothes he was wearing and remained silent all day, either sitting blankly by the door or lying on the dirt slope staring at the sky. The once clever child gradually became withdrawn, and no matter how hard the three tried to cheer him up, he never smiled again. Only when talking about fighting the enemy did his eyes regain focus, as if he were a normal child again. Until one day, a man came to the small house where the three lived. Du Hongsheng, Zhang Jinghao, Zhao Ligua, what are you three boys doing? Who are you? The three had gone to the city to scout the enemy's defenses. Wang Mingxian rarely replied, but when it came to fighting the enemy, he felt a bit happy. Who are you, kid? The newcomer had a full beard, wore a straw hat, and sandals, with a deep voice that exuded righteousness. I am Wang Mingxian. Oh, you are old Wang's son. Du Hongxing wrote about it. I was also saddened by old Wang's fate. But we who are alive must look forward and not live in the past, in sadness. It's not your family that was killed, so of course you can say that. Wang Mingxian stood up and shouted at the bearded man. How can you speak like that, kid? Another person entered, not much older, with a bit of stubble on his face. Instructor, they aren't here. Hey, Xiaozhang, don't say it like that. The bearded man waved his hand at the newcomer, then turned to Wang Mingxian and said, my family was also killed by these scoundrels. Look at me. I've managed to get through it. Humph. You don't know anything. It's easy for you to say since you're not the instructor's child. Xiaozhang, go outside and keep watch. I'll talk to Mingxian. Yes. The young man left. Wang Mingxian's eyes turned red. He finally met someone who shared his pain. Uncle, let us fight the enemy together and take revenge for our families. Good lad, let's fight the enemy together. But before that, we need to gather intelligence. That's why I'm here. I can be the scout. I'm familiar with the city. Wang Mingxian had a sudden inspiration and thought of what he could do. Aren't you afraid of the enemy? I'm not afraid. I want to kill them. Wang Mingxian gritted his teeth, his face twisted with determination. All right. Wang Mingxian kept his word. He put on tattered clothes and blended into the city every day. Following the method taught by the bearded man, he meticulously recorded the enemy's firepower, the shift changes at the watchtowers, the patrol routes of the enemy troops, and other relevant information. Finally, with everyone's efforts, all the intelligence about the city was gathered. The main force will arrive tonight. We are ready to take action. The bearded man gathered everyone together. All right, let's take down this bunch of scoundrels. Wang Mingxian jumped up in excitement. He had finally waited for this day. Chapter 156. Into the dream it's good. you sit down first. Our victory also has your contribution. The bearded man patted him on the shoulder and continued speaking. Du Hongsheng, Zhang Jinghao, Zhao Ligua, you three are familiar with the city's terrain. Tonight, we will enter through the tunnels first, using the enemy's shift change to plant explosives at the city gate to assist the main force in entering. Yes, we guarantee to complete the mission. The three stood up and saluted. Then we will proceed at night. Wang Mingxian, disregarding the instructor's orders, followed the troops into the tunnel after they set off. The once warm and cozy home had become a wreck. All the furniture was burned or smashed, and the ground was covered with remnants of the fire. Damn your ancestors. Wang Mingxian stood in his yard, tears streaming down his face. But he understood that cursing wouldn't defeat the enemy. So he wiped his tears and quietly left. Although his home was by the city wall, it was still some distance from the city gate. He crouched low, moving along the wall, dodging left and right toward the gate. Just as he was nearing the gate, someone grabbed him and covered his mouth. Don't shout, it's me. Why aren't you listening? It was the instructor. If I hadn't discovered you early, you would have been in danger. Hearing the familiar voice, Wang Mingxian stopped struggling. Why didn't you take me with you? I want to kill the enemy. Enough. You stay here obediently. With that, the instructor placed a straw hat on his head and stepped out from the corner. Wang Mingxian dared not move anymore. His eyes fixed on the instructor. He soon saw him slip into a corner and meet up with Du Hongsheng and the others. They huddled together, whispering a few words before filing out from the corner. Wang Mingxian looked up and found that just 10 meters ahead was the enemy's sentry post. It was already 2 a.m., with an hour until the next shift. The enemy soldier was dozing off at the post. This was a rare opportunity. What Wang Mingxian noticed. The seasoned soldiers naturally would not let slip. Du Hongsheng quickly walked a few steps to the back of the enemy's small outpost, covered the enemy's mouth with his hand, and swiftly ended his life with a knife. On the other side, the young man who had taught Wang Mingxian a lesson that day did the same, eliminating another enemy. Just as he was about to shout, Wang Mingxian quickly covered his mouth. He was too excited and almost gave away their position. After they had dealt with the enemies, the group immediately moved the defensive fortifications and opened the gate. Countless people, dressed in gray-blue uniforms and carrying guns, surged in through the gate. Wang Mingxian knew that the main force had arrived. Soon, all the enemies on the city wall were wiped out. At that moment, Wang Mingxian heard gunshots coming from the center of the city. Instantly, the sounds of gunfire filled the air. Seizing the opportunity, Wang Mingxian picked up a gun and ran into the city with the main force. At that moment, all he could think about was killing the enemy. Before long, he reached the battlefield, where the enemy's stronghold had been breached, and many of them lay defeated. Simultaneously, many people in gray-blue uniforms also fell amidst the bloodshed. Wang Mingxian was thrilled. Hiding in a corner, he spotted a lone enemy who was struggling to stand up from the pile of bodies, blood flowing from his chest. Appearing dazed and unsteady, Wang Mingxian raised the rifle in his hand. Having never used a gun before, he suddenly felt a wave of familiarity wash over him. This was a Type 38 rifle, with a stock, bolt, and sling. All of it felt familiar, as if he had used it countless times. He steadied the rifle, pulled the bolt back, and chambered around. Aiming at the enemy's head, he pulled the trigger. Despite the powerful recoil pushing him against the rifle, the enemy fell, his head exploding like a broken watermelon. Haha, take that, you dog. After firing that shot, it seemed like a light bulb went off in his head. Countless tactical knowledge surged into his mind. He felt a surge of power coursing through his body, no longer resembling a 10-year-old boy. And he felt not a shred of fear towards the enemy. Wang Mingxian grabbed a magazine from a fallen soldier nearby and put on a cap. Armed with a rifle, he charged ahead. Inside, the two sides were locked in fierce hand-to-hand combat, and upon seeing this, Wang Mingxian's eyes turned red with rage. He shouted, "Grandpa is here," and fired a shot, taking down an enemy. The soldiers fighting alongside him shot him grateful glances, then charged at the next enemy with their bayonets. Wang Mingxian ran a few steps to a vantage point and fired continuously at the enemy, feeling as if he were under divine assistance. Every shot he fired resulted in an enemy's defeat, and under his targeting, the enemies began to cower, fearing they would be picked off in close combat. The enemy squad leader noticed this situation and recognized him as the one who had come to collect supplies from the Wang family. "Hold your ground. I'm going to deal with that sniper." After speaking, he pushed the nearby soldier and turned to enter the room. When he came out, he was holding a long firearm, different from the one Wang Mingxian used, and there was a long tube attached to the top of it. Wang Mingxian saw him, and that uniquely designed rifle. Is that a Mauser rifle? Is there a scope on top? Didn't he know how he recognized the firearm? Could it be that the soldier was also a sniper? Wang Mingxian murmured that he couldn't let him harm their people. With that thought, he gave up on targeting the soldier and aimed his gun at the squad leader. As long as the soldiers around him moved aside, he could take him out with one shot. Wang Mingxian held his breath and quietly lay down. The squad leader noticed the situation. "Baka, Has he discovered me? Or have I run out of bullets? He immediately hid behind cover, quietly extending the gun barrel. Using the scope to look towards the sniper position he had identified. Wang Mingxian had been waiting for this. He saw the soldier hiding behind a sandbag barrier. Extending his gun. Now was the moment. Wang Mingxian aimed at the soldier's head and decisively pulled the trigger. Is this revenge? Have I finally avenged myself? Ha ha. Wang Mingxian laughed joyfully. Then he felt everything in front of him becoming blurry, as if he were merely an observer, continuously retreating, the speed increasing, and the scenery turning into a blur. Where am I? Wang Mingxian murmured. Grandpa, how are you feeling? Is anything uncomfortable? Wang Zhelan heard her grandfather's mumbling and quickly removed his helmet, asking with concern. I'm fine, I'm doing great. I finally avenged myself. Haha, my dear granddaughter. Chapter 158. One-time event. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Lao suddenly felt his eyelids fighting against each other, and the irresistible sleepiness hit him once again. My dear granddaughter, Grandpa is tired from playing games. Let me sleep for a while. In just a few seconds, he began to breathe evenly. Don't worry. He is in good condition. When he wakes up, you can ask him again, Dongfang said, seeing Wang Zhelan's furrowed brows and walking over. Yuga. A total of 6 treatments are needed, spaced 21 days apart. Since the first one went well, there shouldn't be any issues moving forward. You two should leave one person to take care of the old man, and the other can do whatever they need to. Don't waste time here. I have my own important matters to attend to. After speaking, without waiting for Zhao Jinyu, he immediately turned and left. After all, their relationship had grown closer, so the formalities were no longer necessary. All right, you're a busy person. I guess I've delayed you from a billion-dollar deal. Zhao Jinyu followed him out, standing at the door and calling after Dongfang's retreating figure. Dongfang didn't look back, raised his hand to wave, and left gracefully. As Dongfang walked towards his villa, he took out his phone. Yuan Gu, keep an eye on the company matters. Call me if anything comes up. I need to get back to my important business. All right. Who told you to be the big boss? The talent reserve at the hospital. Before Gao Yuan could finish speaking, Dongfang immediately hung up the phone. The talent reserve should be handled on its own. Not everything has to be decided by this big boss. The saplings are all ready. If they're not planted soon, there won't be enough space in the greenhouse. On the rooftop terrace of the villa, blue light flickered like ripples, and Dongfang vanished from sight. Nova, have you missed me? Dongfang joked from the shuttle. Yes, I have missed you. The moon base and the desert sand control base are both eagerly awaiting your arrival. Dongfang was taken aback. It seemed that joking with the AI was a poor choice. All right. Hurry back. The shuttle accelerated again and reached the sand control base in less than half an hour. There had been significant changes since Dongfang left. In addition to the houses built to keep things discreet, 3 more residential buildings had been constructed to ensure each robot had its own accommodation. A long wall had been built along the main desert road. On the remaining 3 sides, robots were planting trees, and from above, it could be seen that the red willows had begun to encircle the rented desert area. Nova, the progress is quite fast. Yes, Captain. I arranged the planting schedule according to the maximum speed of human planting. Moreover, since I cracked the Maya civilization's computer, I can now engrave life patterns on the red willows. You see, the willows have already reached about 60 centimeters, but these saplings were only transplanted from the greenhouse yesterday. Oh, so there is indeed progress? Let us land and take a look. As you wish, Captain. The shuttle smoothly landed next to a red willow, let Dongfang out, and then ascended into the sky. Dongfang crouched beside the willow and asked, Nova, where is the position for engraving the life patterns? He looked around but found no signs of any patterns. It's at the roots, ensuring that no one can detect anything unusual. All right, that was a waste of effort. Dongfang stood up, brushed off the sand from his clothes, and walked towards the nursery center. By the way, Nova, have all the aerospace equipment you were tasked to produce been prepared? Everything has been produced, and once the aerospace base is completed, it can be delivered immediately. Dongfang raised an eyebrow. Nova never disappoints, no matter the time. As soon as he entered the nursery center, a wave of warmth hit him. The seedling boxes were filled with red willow saplings, and the 50 red willows originally planted on the wall had grown into large trees. Dongfang approached and reached out to measure. They were about 2 meters tall. The growth of the red willows is excellent, and they have entered the flowering stage. Yes, it's the flowering stage. The dense branches were covered with slender green leaves, while the tops were adorned with flowers in pink and purple. Nova, are the flowers of the red willows this beautiful? The east was enchanted by the beautiful scenery before him. People from the north are like this, once winter arrives. Apart from evergreen trees like pines and cypresses, all other plants are left with nothing but dry branches. So, when he suddenly saw clusters of blooming flowers, he was immediately captivated by the beauty in front of him. Breathing in the faint floral fragrance, he felt that the scent was pure, not cloying or overwhelming. A sense of pride welled up within him, and he took out his phone to snap some photos. Captain, why are you taking pictures? Nova asked, puzzled. What is so special about this? Is the Maya civilization and the base on the moon not worth photographing? Haha, I want to post on social media. I haven't posted anything in almost 2 years. Nova fell silent. Alright, no more jokes. I just want to keep a memory. Can you imagine one day these flowers will bloom in this desolate desert? His gaze seemed to lose focus, as if he was lost in his own fantasy. Sorry, Captain. I can't imagine it, but I can simulate it. The East's expression darkened as a sea of flowers appeared in his mind. A scene simulated by Nova, a vast expanse of red willow flowers as far as the eye could see. It's really impossible to communicate with you artificial intelligences. Nova thought silently to himself. The captain surely wanted to show off on social media, but unfortunately, after my question, he felt embarrassed. Is it really fair to bully your own AI? Where is the essence of life? The East finally put away his phone and walked over to the seedling box. Nova did not respond immediately, but a bionic robot emerged from the shelf, holding a red willow seedling. Here, the bionic robot pointed to a blue light cluster near the base of the seedling. The East took a closer look and discovered a blue light the size of a fingernail. Nova, well done. You actually designed a one-time life pattern. Yes. As per your request, I implemented protective measures while meeting technical requirements. Once the seedling grows, these life patterns will immediately lose their effectiveness. And anyone who sees them will just think it's a meaningless ball of thread. Moreover, we can now stop the operation of the life pattern at will. A laser lit up in the bionic robot's hand, and soon it completed a life pattern engraving on the trunk. The blue light cluster glowed again. Then a laser shot out, and the blue light immediately extinguished. Great. Let us remove all the previously laid life boards, water boards, and fire boards tonight. Tomorrow we officially start sand control. Understood, Captain. The risk of leaking secrets had finally been significantly reduced, and the East had finally solved a problem that had troubled him for a long time. Chapter 159. A day in the life of a sand controller that evening. The East took on the role of supervisor again. With his hands behind his back, he silently observed the scene before him. Unlike the functional panels laid at that time, a large number of engineering robots landed on the sandy ground, removing all the functional panels that had been installed beneath the sand. Then, in the place where the water panels were originally placed, they dropped a stone to create a new water source. The originally constructed greenhouse was slightly adjusted. After removing the original functional panels, only the walls needed to be repaired. The functional panels on the automatic irrigation pipes were also completely dismantled, with only small stones buried at the roots. In one night, all functional panels that could expose the Maya civilization were removed, ensuring that any visitors or researchers would not notice anything unusual, of course, without taking any stones from this place. The next morning at 10 o'clock, the sun rose as usual. Dongfang had a unique breakfast for 5 yuan, which consisted of lamb offal. To be honest, as someone from the mainland, he wasn't accustomed to it, but how could he not try the local delicacies? Dongfang vowed that it was both his first and last meal of that kind. After breakfast, he changed into a set of athletic wear, put on gloves, and went out. The robots didn't need breakfast, so after completing all their work last night, they had already started planting trees. They were very busy with their tasks, divided into groups of 3. One dug holes, one supported the trees, and one backfilled the soil. Their speed was not slow, completing the planting of a sapling in just 5 minutes. However, this sight made Dongfang feel a bit uneasy. Number 1. Is this how you plant trees? Reporting to the captain, yes. We calculated the maximum speed for humans to plant saplings and then arranged for the robots to plant at that speed. You really have it tough. Dongfang sighed, looking at these metal machines. Not at all. We don't need breaks and can plant 24 hours a day. Nova. Haven't you been keeping track of the progress at the sand control base? Yes, Captain. Most of my computing power has been devoted to researching the Maya civilization, while a small portion is always on standby for your call. So, after you left, I rarely monitored the sand control base. Forget it. My fault for not reminding you more. I said to plant according to the technology level of the blue planet. But I didn't mean for you to really use such primitive methods. Bring in the water trucks and drilling vehicles. The bionic robots only need to focus on planting trees. By the way, make sure the water trucks are engraved with plenty of water patterns. And don't end up creating the illusion of having no water. Understood, Captain. 5 minutes later, a total of 50 mechanical vehicles of each type were transported to the sand control base by the spherical starship. Among the 2 types of vehicles, one was a standard water truck, while the other had a somewhat bizarre design, moving intermittently across the desert. As the vehicle passed, it left behind circular tree holes in the ground. This was the drilling vehicle that Dongfang mentioned. The vehicle wasn't very large. It just had a short tail at the back, with a drill bit hanging underneath. Unlike the drill bits we usually use, this one was made up of twisted blades. The tail, which is the hydraulic rod, presses the drill onto the sandy ground. As the blades continuously rotate, they will scrape away the sand. forming a pit about 50 centimeters deep and 40 centimeters in diameter. The robot just needs to place the sapling inside. Then shovel the surrounding sand back into the pit to compact it, completing the planting of a tree. With the addition of machinery, the speed of tree planting has greatly increased. They first divided the base into squares according to the sand control strips designed by the Eastern team, with each square spaced 5 meters apart for planting a red willow, creating concentric circles of sand barriers. However, relying solely on these circles of red willows cannot transform the desert inside into arable land. Therefore, advanced technology from the Earthring Star comes into play. The Eastern team initially thought of a plant-based fiber adhesive, which is a new type of adhesive specifically researched for desert conditions. As we know, deserts are filled with round pebbles that shift when stepped on. To solve this problem, Earthring Star developed this plant-based adhesive. As long as it is sprinkled on the desert and watered, the surface layer of the desert will bond together. Although this bonding is not permanent and will naturally decompose after 3 months, that time is enough for the Eastern team to transform the desert into arable land. Of course, Earthring Star has more advanced technologies, such as material converters and nanobinding nets, but considering the current technological level of the blue planet, the Eastern team decided to pass on those options and confirm the use of the adhesive. Nova, do we have any stock of the plant-based fiber adhesive? Yes. Before heading to the far side of the moon, the base had already stocked some. Originally, it was intended to use this low-cost method to process the lunar base's foundation to save energy, but later, a large amount of materials needed for nuclear fusion was discovered, leading to the abandonment of the adhesive method. Therefore, the base currently has a rich inventory. Then what are we waiting for? Transport it to the desertification base in 5 minutes. Understood. However, Captain, as your assistant, I need to remind you that this adhesive has a short bonding time and will degrade into plant fibers after 3 months, so please be mindful of the timing. The Eastern team thought for a moment. 3 months is sufficient, as long as they plant forage on the bonded sandy land and quickly promote its growth. After the forage wilts, they can set it on fire, repeating this cycle several times. The organic matter, or fertilizer, in the sand will become abundant, and the desert will naturally turn into arable land. No problem, we have plenty of time. A few minutes later, a transport ship appeared in the air. It didn't land, but opened its cargo door, releasing numerous small, unmanned aerial vehicles. Each of them was equipped with a round barrel underneath, and quickly flew over the designated sandy area. Captain, can we begin? Nova's voice came through. Start. After the command from the east, the unmanned aerial vehicle immediately sprayed green liquid. As soon as the liquid touched the sand grains, it quickly penetrated in, causing the golden sand to appear as if it had faded, turning into a dark brown color. The east stepped onto the sand, which had been treated, and found it very comfortable, like stepping on hardened concrete. It was completely different from the feeling of stepping on the desert, where there were no pressure points. A day passed in the blink of an eye, and by sunset, the East had completed the treatment of 52 plots of land. Not bad, not bad. A day in the life of a sand control worker is indeed fulfilling. In the villa's dining room, the East was enjoying his barbecue feast. Habitually, he took out his phone and opened the news app, ready to scroll through the day's headlines. Just as he was about to tap on the app, a message had already been pushed to him. The Stargazer space station has completed all construction tasks and will be put into use tomorrow. Chapter 160. Competition upgrade. The East casually clicked on the message, and the exciting report immediately caught his eye. Major good news. Thanks to the continuous efforts of the aerospace workers, our Stargazer space station has completed all construction tasks, finishing the plan 3 years ahead of schedule. On a global scale, our space station has surpassed the existing International Space Station, becoming the first in the blue planet. The East raised his eyebrows, chuckling. With his assistance, the technological level of various industries in the country has continuously made breakthroughs. However, this is to be expected. We have been accumulating strength for over 30 years. With the help of the Earthring Company, many key technologies that have been bottlenecked have rapidly advanced. Our large aircraft, heavy lift rockets, and domestic chips have emerged one after another, and all industries are thriving with remarkable achievements. The second message was also from the country, but it contained only one word that sparked endless curiosity: Mars. Is this for the Mars exploration? The East laughed and saw the third trending topic. The Titan V rocket achieved a significant breakthrough, and the flag country has restarted its lunar landing plan. They boldly declared that they would return to the moon soon and establish a base. Nova, dispatch a battleship to hover over their launch site. As soon as the Titan V rocket leaves the ground, destroy it immediately. However, the other exploratory rockets can be released in proportion. Their launch success rate must be firmly controlled at around 20. Received. Captain, do you have any other arrangements? Currently, the space race among various nations is gradually accelerating. I want to stoke the fire. The Little Devils and the European M's lackeys must have their launch success rates controlled at around 30, higher than their leader. Hee hee. I want to make the flag country doubt its existence. By the way, the old bear is not to be underestimated either. Alright, what about the other countries? No restrictions for now. We can adjust later. Launch. Return to the moon. Let's see you try. After finishing the leftover barbecue, Dongfang continued to scroll through his phone, but all he found were entertainment gossip articles about comebacks and vague references to a resurgence. This made Dongfang frown. These people were just wasting their time on trivial matters. He decided to ignore it, turned off his phone, and returned to his training. On January 20th, 2023, after several days of effort, the desertification control base had completely transformed. The plots surrounded by red willows were now fully planted with forage grass. As usual, Dongfang stood at the entrance of the villa, watching the busy robots working tirelessly to engrave life scripts on each red willow. Dongfang felt puzzled again. Is there really no other way to engrave the scripts of Nova and Yawen? He pointed to a robot lying on the ground, diligently engraving life scripts with a laser. Yes, Captain, this is the only method I can think of for now. I will continue researching the Maya civilization to find breakthroughs. Have you considered a copier? I have thought about it, but since the materials for engraving Yawen differ, even a slight variation would cause the function to fail. And the success rate cannot be guaranteed at 100. So, using robots is still more reliable with a guaranteed success rate. Make one then. Even if the success rate is slightly lower, the speed is what matters. Don't be so rigid. Time is crucial now. Alright, you are the captain. Just as they were talking, Dongfang's phone rang. Mom, what made you think of calling me? You still remember I'm your mom? You still know you have a home? Tell me, how long has it been since you last returned home? How long since you last called? The sound of his mother's yelling nearly pierced Dongfang's eardrums. So he had to hold the phone away from his ear. At the same time, he heard his father's voice. Child, aren't you busy with company matters? Be understanding. Get out of the way. Can't you call even when you're busy? You haven't been that good either. Since you gave money, you've been living well. Opening a lamb shop whenever you like, and playing chess when you don't want to work. I'll deal with you later. Son, are you still there? I'm here. What do you want? I'm listening. Dongfang's survival instinct kicked in, as if he hadn't heard anything from before. Do you know what tomorrow is? His mother's voice came through, gritted with tension. Do I know or not? Dongfang didn't dare to answer immediately. Is there something special about tomorrow? Nothing special. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, which should be an important day for our people, right? Mom, I've been busy and confused lately. I'll go home soon. Isn't tomorrow New Year's Eve? Dongfang thought he had grasped the key point and said with a grin. Humph, that's not bad, but you only got half of it right. What else? Dongfang's heart sank. What else? Hello? Hello? Mom, the signal isn't good. I can't hear you. I'll talk when I get home. He hung up without waiting for his mother to respond. However, she faintly heard someone say, You little rascal, you have quite a few tricks up your sleeve. I'll deal with you when you get back. Nova, is there anything special tomorrow? Captain, there really isn't anything. I've done my best. No. Check Grandma's birthday. I remember it's the 28th or 29th of the lunar calendar. Captain, you didn't remember wrong. Her birthday is tomorrow. When Dongfang entered, his mother was waiting at the door with her hands on her hips. The sound of stir-frying wafted from the kitchen. The aroma of sautéed lamb was enticing. It seems Dad didn't have an easy time today either. Mom, I'm back, Grandma. Dongfang turned to see Grandma sitting on the sofa. What a relief, what a relief. Good grandson. Come sit with Grandma. I've missed you so much. Dongfang ducked under his mother's arm, and although she tried hard to control herself, he still noticed her trembling right hand. If it weren't for Grandma being here, today he would probably be eating bamboo shoots with meat. Grandma, are you used to living at home? Getting used to it. It's much warmer here than our hometown. My old leg isn't hurting as much. Your parents are taking good care of me. Oh, that's good. Then I can rest assured. Grandma, happy early birthday. Dongfang handed over a thick red envelope. Hey, you little rascal. This should be Grandma giving you a red envelope. As they exchanged pleasantries, Dongfang's mother appeared next to them. Mom, just take it. This kid has money burning a hole in his pocket now. Finally, her words had an effect, and Grandma accepted it. Dinner's ready. Everyone come eat. Dad's voice called from the kitchen. All right. Grandma struggled to get up. After all, her age was catching up with her, and her health wasn't what it used to be. Seeing this, Dongfang felt a pang in his heart. He had been so busy with work that he had neglected his family. He supported Grandma's arm and silently called out to Nova in his heart. Haven't we been researching the giant squid for a long time? Why haven't I heard you report any results? I'm sorry, Your Excellency. I thought you didn't need it because you took the gene potion. Oh, I see. So what have you discovered? Chapter 161. The Secret of Longevity. Dongfang sat at the dining table somewhat distracted. Even his favorite stir-fried lamb tasted bland in his mouth. Fanger, what are you doing? Grandma lovingly patted his head and asked. Nothing, just thinking about the company's RD matters. Hurry up and eat. Seeing 3 pairs of eyes staring at him, he immediately paused the communication with Nova and focused on eating. Eat first, eat first. After dinner, I'll make a call. I suddenly thought of a research problem. Dongfang chuckled and started eating heartily. So delicious. Dad's cooking is getting better and better. Dong Yin raised his head, gave Dongfang a proud look, and picked up a piece of lamb. What are you doing? Isn't this for your son? You're enjoying it yourself? And when I say you're getting fat, you start panting. Recently, the meals have been good, and I've gained a bit of weight. Dong Yin helplessly shrugged his shoulders, and the family laughed together. The Dong family lives in the big house that he bought 2 years ago, which ensures that everyone has their own bedroom. So after dinner, Dongfang returned to his room. Nova, tell me, what have you discovered? Captain, you know that human life begins with a single cell, right? Are you talking about fertilization? Haha, Dongfang awkwardly touched his face, wondering if he knew too much for a single guy. Exactly, just like you. No, you are already different from ordinary humans. So let's explain it using regular people. Human life starts from a single cell, which divides into 2, then 4, and after a period of development, a complete life is born. Dongfang nodded, acknowledging the process. Continue. But the division of cells never stops. It continues throughout a person's life. Some cells can divide thousands of times. For example, your parents who are washing dishes in the kitchen right now, even though they appear whole and normal standing there. In fact, all their cells are rapidly dividing. However, simply dividing is not enough to meet the survival needs of a human, because during cell division, all the DNA and the chromosomes must be copied, otherwise, the newly divided cells cannot function properly. Dongfang thought about it and realized it was true. It's like positions in a company. If someone resigns, there must be a handover, otherwise, it's hard for newcomers to get started. If there's an unexpected situation at work, there's time to wait. But what about the human body? It can't wait. Can you afford to wait for eyesight to recover after going blind? Can an arm heal itself after being broken? However, there is a flaw in human DNA replication. Each time a cell divides, the DNA replication is accompanied by the shortening of the DNA at the ends. What gets worn down is the telomere DNA. Therefore, we can conclude that the longer the telomeres, the younger and healthier a person is. This means that our cells are continuously losing functionality. So when people age, calcium loss becomes severe, blood vessels are more likely to clog, pigment cells die, leading to gray hair, skin loosening, and so on. All of these are caused by telomere wear. Dongfang immediately understood what Nova was trying to express. Yes, and of course, if humans often stay up late and overwork, this will also accelerate, making people show signs of aging. You also missed one point. Immune cells will die too, and when a person's immune capacity decreases, they become more susceptible to illness. So what makes the giant squid special? Regeneration. Even when it's getting old, its ability to regenerate remains normal. In fact, humans also have regenerative abilities. But this capability is completely restricted as a person ages, like with teeth. Of course, nails and hair don't count. If their roots are damaged, they won't grow back either. This is something that the East is well aware of. So how does the giant squid achieve regeneration without limitations? It involves a special type of cell, stem cells. By the way, geckos also have them. Their stem cells are in the spinal cord, which makes them more similar to humans since they are also vertebrates. Normally, these stem cells do not divide and remain in a dormant state. Once they receive a signal indicating damage, they are immediately activated to regenerate a tail or limbs. Stem cells, telomeres, stem cells, telomeres. This is constantly repeated in the East. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Could ordinary somatic cells be transformed into stem cells? If stem cells could be made to divide and produce cells with telomeres the same length as those of newborns, would that mean achieving human immortality? Nova, have you ever tried converting somatic cells? Captain, this involves human ethics, and as an AI, I am absolutely prohibited from touching this taboo area. Therefore, I can never conduct such experiments. Nova's expression was serious, and her tone was extremely firm, seemingly displeased with the Eastern inquiry. All right. Nova, you see, I often regard you as human. This is not a test. The East chuckled and changed the subject. Is the biological laboratory at the far side of the moon ready with all the experimental equipment installed? Yes, Captain. All instruments are in optimal condition. The East's eyes flickered with an idea. Nova, transform Unit 1 to look like me and send a battleship to pick me up. I want to have some fun at the base. Understood, Captain, but didn't you just return home? Leaving again in such a short time. Your mother might not be happy about it, Nova replied. I just heard her say that. The East's face darkened. So you've learned to tease your master now? I might need to reprogram you. How could that be, Master? This is my functional module, primarily designed to alleviate the boredom of long interstellar voyages for you. Humph, this time I'll let it slide, but if you mess up again, I'll definitely have you reprogrammed. Captain, the ship has arrived. The battleship landed in the dock at the lunar base, and as soon as the East disembarked, he saw Nova. Welcome, the great and handsome captain, to the lunar base. The female robot half bowed, and the lights of the base flickered as if a grand welcoming ceremony was underway. The East was amused. The intelligent AI was indeed clever, having learned to emulate a certain cultural practice of excessive flattery. It continuously catered to its master until satisfied. Don't mess around. Go to the laboratory. Understood, Captain. According to the initial programming rules, I cannot participate in your experiments. The East turned back to glance at the robot beside him. Can't even the assistants help? I'm afraid so. Even recording is not possible. So I will turn off all the surveillance in the lab. The experiment will depend on you alone. All right. Chapter 162. Artificial Multifunctional Stem Cells. As he spoke, Dongfang had already reached the entrance of the lab. Captain, I wish you good luck. Nova stopped at the door, watching as he stepped up the stairs and entered the lab. Dongfang entered alone, glancing at the monitors by the entrance, and indeed, all the monitors were turned off. The holographic screen was completely dark. Captain, I will keep the communication open with you. But the photographic and recording functions of the biochip will be temporarily disabled until you complete all the experimental tasks and turn them back on. All right, I understand. After responding, Dongfang quickly changed into protective clothing, put on his helmet, and entered the sci-fi-themed biological lab. Just as Dongfang confidently stood in front of the fully automated cell culture device, he was somewhat stunned, forgetting the most important thing. He still didn't have the ordinary somatic cells needed for the experiment. Nova, are you there? Always here, Captain. What can I do for you? Can my somatic cells be used for the experiment? Of course, your cells can be used. However, since your DNA is longer than that of an average person, and the telomere wear of your cells is very minimal, one could say there's virtually no wear. The results of the experiment may not be universal. But you only need the process and the results to see if ordinary somatic cells can be reprogrammed into stem cells, so it is certainly usable. As long as it can be used, that is fine. He returned to the outside of the lab, took off the protective suit, and tried to find a piece of shed skin from his body. Unfortunately, after looking 3 times, his body was so smooth that there wasn't even a hair to be found. Damn it, Dongfang silently cursed. It seems his body has indeed changed dramatically. Helpless, Dongfang had to take out the tissue extractor, made a small incision on his arm, and removed a piece of real skin tissue. His expression showed that he seemed to be in great pain, but after he cleaned up, the wound on his arm surprisingly healed. Dongfang looked around to make sure no one was watching, then quickly put on the protective suit again. Damn, luckily no one is here. Armed once more, Dongfang returned to the lab's sterile area. After placing his tissue in the fully automated culture device, he began to prepare other things. In just a few minutes, the somatic cells in the culture dish had reached a visible level, and Dongfang took them out and placed them into the pre-warmed transcription factor editor. It was only when Dongfang officially started the experiment that he realized editing transcription factors was quite similar to programming. He quickly injected transcription factors into the somatic cells according to his previous ideas. Based on the gene sequences, there are over 600 proteins with DNA-binding domains in the human genome, most of which have transcription factor functions. But this was no challenge for Dongfang. Trial and error would suffice. Xiaonuo removed the transcription factors unrelated to stem cell characteristics. Further narrowed down the database. Okay, Master. The screening is complete, and the database has been reduced to 200. The biological chip assistant, Xiaonuo, quickly provided the answer. Further screening, I need transcription factors directly related to embryonic stem cells. Understood. A few seconds later, Xiaonuo completed the screening again. Master, there are currently 24 directly relevant factors, among which the most notable are the 4 transcription factors. October 4th, SOX2, KLF4, and CMYC. Good. Combine them and select the optimal combinations. Master, the sorting and combinations are complete, yielding a total of 64 optimal combinations. The results appeared before Dongfang, and he knew that the next step was trial and error. After all, there were plenty of somatic cells in the culture device for him to use. Xiaonuo, establish a secure storage area and start recording the experimental process. Set the confidentiality level so that only with my consent can it be accessed. Received, recording now. Dongfang moved his fingers and softly said, the first encoding begins. Failure. The somatic cells showed no stem cell characteristics, and division was halted. The somatic cells died completely. The second experiment failed. By the 50th experiment, Xiaonuo, we are very close to success. Yes, Master. Recording the 56th experiment. Received. Haha. Dongfang stood up, holding a petri dish, and laughed heartily. Xiaonuo, record the results. I think I've succeeded. In this experiment, a total of 56 somatic cell compilation experiments were completed, with 26 instances of functional loss resulting in cell death, 10 instances of incomplete functionality leading to unlimited division, and 19 instances approaching stem cell functional compilation. Ultimately, I discovered that after introducing the 4 transcription factors October 4th, SOX2, KLF4, and CMYC, also known as OSGAM factors, into somatic cells, The characteristics expressed by the somatic cells were indistinguishable from those of stem cells. Moreover, the compiled cells exhibited more functional characteristics, could self-silence, and upon stimulation, would immediately respond and enter a division state, while their telomeres showed no signs of wear. I believe I have found the secret to human longevity. Naming it, pluripotent stem cell compilation technology. The recording is complete and is being encrypted with access permissions set to highest level. Without the special approval of Captain Dongfang, no one may access it, including the Starship's core AI Nova. The secure storage has been set up. Dongfang nodded, picked up everything on the experimental table, threw it into the high-temperature incinerator, and turned to exit the laboratory. Captain, have you succeeded? Nova did not move immediately. Instead, it waited at the door of the laboratory. As soon as Dongfang stepped out, it walked up to him. Well, Nova, I've built a biological laboratory on the battleship. I'm ready to head back. All right. You have been experimenting for 4 days now. If you don't go home soon, I estimate your parents will take apart Unit 1. Dongfang felt a headache coming on. It seemed the robot still struggled a bit when dealing with its own parents. After all, they were too familiar with him. While they were talking, Dongfang had already reached the dock. Captain, please wait a moment. Nova said as many robots were coming in and out of the battleship, transporting various equipment needed for the biological laboratory. Dongfang didn't have to wait long. Nova spoke again. Captain, all tasks have been completed. You can set off now? At that moment, the battleship emitted a tractor beam, pulling him into the spaceship. The battleship immediately closed the hatch, drawing a beautiful arc of light as it disappeared into the far side of the moon. Captain, I hope your reasons can perfectly convince your parents, after all. They think you didn't even accompany everyone for the most important spring festival. Nova quietly stood in the dock, watching the departing battleship and murmuring to itself. Chapter 163. A special gift. 10 minutes later, the battleship appeared above Dongfang's residential building. Then, the glass window of his bedroom was pushed open, and the tractor beam accurately placed him beside his bed. Unit 1. Why have you reverted to your original form? Master, your parents discovered my anomaly, and I had no choice. This robot, with the appearance of a burly man, rarely showed a look of helplessness. They are too familiar with you. On the first night after you left, they noticed my abnormality. Dongfang's expression fell. What was he going to do now? His mother's ear-pulling technique must be eager to go. It seemed he couldn't go out now. He had to go home through the front door. Otherwise, appearing and disappearing suddenly would be even harder to explain. So, he turned around and pushed open the window, disappearing back into his bedroom. Mom, you can't spoil him. This time when he comes home, I must give this little brat a good lesson. Dongfang's grandmother and mother were sitting on the sofa watching TV. Isn't he busy? That's understandable, Dongfang's father chimed in. You be quiet. I haven't even mentioned your sneaking drinks these past few days. You just recovered from your illness and dare to sneak drinks. Dongfang's mother immediately shot a fierce look at Dongyan. Hey, that's two different matters. We're talking about our son here. I say it's the same thing. If it weren't for you always spoiling him, before his mother could finish, the sound of the door opening came through. She immediately stopped, quickly got up, and walked to the door. Oh, look who it is, the big boss Dong is back home. So you do know how to come home. As soon as she saw it was indeed Dongfang, she rushed over and grabbed Dongfang's ear. Ouch, that hurts. Dongfang put on a pained expression, constantly signaling to his grandmother and father as they approached. This trick had always worked for him. Besides, his grandmother was here too. Oh, my dear grandson. Linger, just let him off this time. His grandmother stepped forward and shielded Dongfang. Mom, Dongfang's mother called out. You agreed just now, and now you're going back on your word. Next time, I'll help you deal with him. Reluctantly, she had to let go of her grip. I promise there won't be a next time. Dongfang forced an exaggerated smile on his face, grasped her hand, and shook it vigorously. You're all grown up, still learning to act cute. You can't do this anymore. You need to balance work and rest. Your dad, grandma, and I are counting on you to support us in our old age. Dongfang's mother chuckled. She was just worried about her son overworking himself. Ah, the woes of every parent. You rascal. Dongyan pointed at his son. What's the deal with that kid in the bedroom? Oh, it's just a bionic robot, a new product from our company that can mimic anyone's appearance. But hey, I have a big gift for you. Dongfang quickly changed the subject. He couldn't let this topic continue, or he'd give himself away. Oh, you even know to prepare gifts? I see you empty-handed. What gift do you have? Bring it out for Mom to see. Dongfang's mother crossed her arms and looked at her son with a playful smirk. Hee hee, this gift is quite special. It's a beauty product. Not only can you use it, but Grandma and Dad can use it too. It can make you look younger. Really? Hurry up and bring it out for me to try. Look at this old face of mine. It's all wrinkled. His mother's attention was immediately caught, and she touched her face, trying to smooth out the wrinkles. Dongfang looked up at the three closest people in front of him. They really had aged. The hardships of time had turned into wrinkles etched on their faces, and his grandmother's hair was completely white, her body hunched. Ah, it was all his fault. Dongfang felt a flush of warmth as he recalled everything they had done for him, working early and late to earn money. Every morning, just the right temperature. All of this was their sacrifice for him. But what had he done in return? Aside from giving a little money, what else had he done for them? Dear grandson, gifts aren't important. It's your heart that matters. His grandmother, at her age, lacked nothing and only hoped for his happiness and health. By the way, you need to get married soon so I can hold my great-grandchild. Dongfang lowered his head, secretly wiping away a tear, and nodded heavily. Don't worry, Grandma. You will definitely live a long life. The beauty product needs to be specially customized, so we need to collect some of your somatic cells. All right, my dear grandson. About those cells and customization, I don't need that anymore. I'm old. Just get it for your parents. That won't do. We need to collect it from everyone. Dongfang was very firm. I won't use it. I'm just an old lady. What beauty do I need? No, this beauty treatment also has anti-aging effects. Using it can extend your life by many years. Dongfang turned to look at his parents. That's right, Mom. Everyone says this guy's company is exceptionally impressive. If you live a few more years, you might even see your great-grandchildren get married. All right then, the elderly woman agreed. Beauty treatment it is. Let it be a way to fulfill my grandson's wish. In truth, she believed that life should follow its natural course of birth, aging, illness, and death. Could a beauty treatment really prolong life? Dongfang took out a collector, a device resembling a metal rod with a transparent glass tube at the front, like a straw. When placed against the skin, the machine emitted an extremely fine laser that precisely cut the epidermis and then harvested dermal tissue. The tissue was drawn into the collector, and the laser sealed the incision by cauterizing it, eliminating any scar. The entire collection process took no more than 2 seconds, making it an exceptionally practical instrument. Fanger, is the collection done? Why can't I see any scar? Dongfang's mother curiously touched her arm, which had felt a slight pain moments before. Hee. It's a new scar removal technology. The collection is already finished. In less than 2 minutes, Dongfang had completed the tissue collection from all 3 individuals. Grandma, Dad, Mom. I need to step out for a bit. Wait for me at home. I'll be back soon. This child, what has the rush? It's the middle of the New Year celebrations. Just want you to experience the wonders of technology sooner. Dongfang chuckled and headed out. With the cell samples in hand, Dongfang left the house and made his way through the flower beds in the residential area before returning to the battleship. The biological laboratory inside the battleship was identical to the one at the lunar base, so he effortlessly completed all the encoding work. But just as he was about to return home to administer the injections to his family, he suddenly paused. It hasn't been tested on humans yet. Dongfang slapped his forehead and pulled out his phone. Mom, this customization will take some time. I'll come back tomorrow. You rascal. Can it wait until after the new year? I just want you to regain your youth sooner. I've got to go now, talk later. Fine. But if it doesn't work, you'll have to answer to me. After his mother's half-hearted threat, she hung up. She could sense her son's seriousness. Perhaps he wasn't joking after all. Nova, bring a few lab mice from the company's laboratory. I'll test it out first. Understood, Captain. They will arrive in 3 minutes. Chapter 164. Experiment in reality. Nova always allowed ample reaction time whenever reporting deadlines. So, in under 2 minutes, 20 lab mice were delivered to the battleship, each housed in transparent glass containers, lively and active. Captain, all 20 lab mice have been delivered. I will now disable the recording and monitoring functions again. Dongfang naturally had no objections. After having the android transport the mice into the laboratory, he closed the door. Since it was a live experiment, he set up both control and experimental groups, with 5 mice in each. Simply put, the control group received no treatment, while the experimental group underwent somatic cell reprogramming into pluripotent stem cells before being reintroduced into the mice. Yesterday, Dongfang completed the experiment, and his coding went exceptionally smoothly. Soon, he obtained 5 groups of multipotent stem cells, which he then placed into fully automated cultivation equipment. A few minutes later, the 5 tubes of stem cells were neatly arranged on the experimental table. Gently picking one up, Dongfang examined it under the light. It was transparent and clear, showing no visible abnormalities. But this was already an exciting moment. Immortality. It was the greatest dream humanity has tirelessly pursued since the dawn of wisdom. And today it would be realized in Dongfang's hands. He took a deep breath to calm his excitement and immediately took out the laboratory mice from the incubator, injecting them with the cells according to their numbers. Then began the long wait. Initially, there was no difference between the experimental group and the control group of mice. They were leisurely playing in the incubator and eating the food inside. 1 hour, 2 hours, just as Dongfang was about to give up. He noticed changes in the 5 experimental mice. First, they began to lose their fur. Then, they lost their nails, teeth, and whiskers. Before long, all 5 mice fell into a deep sleep, with not a single hair left. Dongfang leaned in for a closer look and made a significant discovery. A layer of fine white fur began to grow from their skin. At that moment, the mice woke up. As soon as they awoke, they devoured the food stored in the box as if they had been starving for a long time. Still seeming unsatisfied as they sniffed and searched the bottom of the box, Dongfang stood up from his seat and took out the mice from the incubator, performing biological checks on each of them. Perfect. Dongfang let out a low growl. The condition of the 5 mice was extremely perfect. They had undergone rejuvenation. Biologically, they had reverted to the state of 2-month-old newborns. Originally, they were already 15 months old, having entered old age. Without Dongfang's injection of stem cells, the 5 experimental mice would reach the end of their lives in 3 months. Now, after the stem cell injection, how long they could live was uncertain. After placing enough food in the incubator, he called Nova again. Captain, have you completed the experiment? What are your instructions? The mouse experiment was very successful. My success rate reached 100, but for the human trials, I understand, I need some subjects. A fierce light flashed in Dongfang's eyes. Isn't there a death penalty in that region? In their prisons, some extremely heinous criminals are still locked up. I understand your meaning. Nova's image disappeared, and Dongfang sat quietly in his seat, waiting for the results. The prison in that region, specifically built for housing serious offenders, was named San Quentin. At 2:36 p.m., the sun was shining bright, and a few white clouds floated in the blue sky. It was the time for outdoor activities. In the open space, some people were lounging on deck chairs, while others were energetically working out on gym equipment in the corner, sweating profusely but still full of enthusiasm. High on the surrounding walls, armed guards patrolled back and forth, keeping a close watch on these individuals. 50 meters above, a battleship silently appeared. Report to the command center. Target confirmed. Number 1, Robert Galvin, known for his brutal methods, involved in multiple serious crimes. Number 2, Curtis Watson, guilty of heinous offenses. Both can be captured. A cold voice echoed on the bridge, and suddenly, the battleship erupted with a blinding light. Everyone felt a flash before plunging back into darkness. Captured and returning. Good. Send them directly to the captain. What is happening? The people inside finally regained their sight, tears streaming down their faces, their eyes red and still blurry. The guard was the first to recover, aided by his sunglasses. He nervously rushed to the edge of the wall and looked down. Oh no, 2 people are missing. This is a planned escape. A report came in as a large number of guards appeared, frantically herding the prisoners back into their cells. They searched every corner but found nothing. This incident became a mysterious case in the history of the nation, sealed within classified files. Meanwhile, the orchestrator of the operation was well aware of everything that had transpired. He sat with a smile, waiting for his specimens to arrive. Captain, are you satisfied? Yes. Hurry and bring them in. The door to the lab opened automatically, and 2 unconscious individuals, a muscular black man and an overweight white man, were pushed in by a bioengineered robot. The orchestrator put on gloves, picked up a collection device, and approached the 2. 2 hours later, cheers erupted from the lab as he emerged wearing a cleanroom suit. Nova, have all the specimens in the lab been processed? I have obtained the results I wanted. He held 3 syringes filled with a transparent liquid, the ends glowing with a ring of green light. Yes, ready for destruction. By the way, can this nutrient solution be injected directly? The orchestrator raised the bags of green liquid in his hand. Of course, Captain, but you have better options. The bioengineered robot stepped out from the corner, offering several bottles of orange beverages to the orchestrator. Captain, this is a multifunctional nutrient solution. It contains a large amount of protein, sugars, amino acids, and other essential nutrients for humans. Its energy is sufficient to meet an ordinary person's needs for a week. Plus, it tastes good, similar to fruity soda. The orchestrator lifted the drink, opened it, and took a big sip, finding it delightful. Soon, he felt a sense of fullness. All right, everything is ready. Chapter 165, Swallow Cave at 5 p.m. Dongfang appeared at the door once again. Of course, he hadn't strayed far, so when he opened the door, he found his grandmother and parents happily preparing dinner. Looking at the harmonious family scene, all the fatigue he had felt over the past few days vanished, and he felt more than willing to contribute to his family. Grandson, you're back so soon? His grandmother spoke first, her affection for him evident in every gesture. Grandma, you take a break. I'll help out. Dongfang set down the suitcase he was carrying and rolled up his sleeves to join in washing vegetables. It was a belated New Year's Eve dinner. Dongfang patiently waited until his parents and grandmother finished tidying up the dishes. Only then did he take out the exquisite suitcase he had brought back. As soon as his mother saw the beautifully crafted suitcase, her face lit up with a smile. Son, this is that new product, right? Yes, it's the latest beauty product developed by the company, but it has a unique method of use. It needs to be injected. Dongfang nodded, grinning as he looked at the 3 elders. What is there to worry about, as long as it works well? His mother touched her face and raised her voice. You 3, get to bed. Oh, and first drink a bottle of this nutrient solution. Dongfang handed the nutrient solution to the three of them, adding, "This is to be used in conjunction with the beauty injections, so everyone needs to drink a bottle." His grandmother was about to decline, but upon hearing Dongfang's words, she reluctantly picked up the nutrient solution and managed to drink half a bottle. Once the three were settled in bed, Dongfang took out 3 syringes. "Son, this green breathing light is quite pretty," his mother commented after being the first to complete the injection. Looking at the uniquely designed syringe, she asked, "Why is this different from the ones we usually use?" "These beauty solutions need to be specially sealed, so they are in a vacuum. Naturally, they can't be used the same way as the usual ones," Dongfang explained. "Dad, Mom, if you start feeling drowsy, go to sleep quickly. I'll keep an eye on Grandma." Finally, Dongfang entered his grandmother's bedroom. Since she was the eldest, he planned to wait until she completed her stem cell transformation before leaving. Amid her gentle reminders to take care of herself and rest well, Dongfang finished the multifunctional stem cell injection. In less than 5 minutes, his grandmother fell into a deep sleep, unaware of anything around her. Dongfang quietly sat by her bedside. While in his parents' room, the first subject also sat quietly by the bed, its electronic eyes focused intently on the two. His grandmother was the first to show changes. Her white hair quickly fell out, followed by her eyebrows and facial hair. Since she was covered with a blanket, Dongfang couldn't see the changes in her body. But he imagined his parents were experiencing similar transformations. As the night was quiet and there was no noise, Dongfang, who hadn't slept for several days, felt drowsy while sitting. His eyelids felt heavy, and before he knew it, he fell asleep. Oh my, is this real?" A high-pitched female voice rang in Dongfang's ears. He opened his eyes groggily and saw a familiar figure. It was his grandmother, with a smooth face and a thin layer of black hair on her head. To be precise, she looked about 30 years old, and Dongfang was certain of this because he had seen her young photos more than once. Then came a second high-pitched female voice and a third male voice. Dongfang nodded. It seemed the effect was impressive. If his grandmother looked like she was in her 30s, then his parents must be similar. Sure enough, an image of his father appeared in front of him, along with a memory of his mother. Dongfang laughed and stood up from his chair. He looked at his parents rushing into his grandmother's bedroom and said, "How about it? The effect is outstanding, right?" His grandmother and parents were in disbelief, staring at their reflections in the mirror. Dongfang was also delighted, watching as 3 individuals with a significant age difference transformed into peers. It felt incredibly wonderful. Laughter and joy filled the home, and with the ample heating, the 3 rejuvenated individuals began to sweat after jumping around for a while. His mother, Wang Ling, felt unusually sticky and itchy. She casually scratched her back and found her hands covered in a thick layer of white residue. "Father, what is this?" she asked, lifting her finger to show the accumulated muck. "That's metabolism. You all should hurry and take a shower." In their home, his grandmother and mother naturally had the final say. So in the living room, the 2 Dongfangs sat at opposite ends of the sofa, staring at each other in confusion about what to say. "You kid, why didn't you give me a heads up? You've put me in a very passive position." Dongfang chuckled, seeing a face similar to his own, dressed in a vest favored by middle-aged people and red long johns. Seriously talking to him was an exhilarating feeling. "Dad, just be grateful. With such a great thing. If it weren't for my mom, you wouldn't have it." Just as the father and son were bickering, Nova meticulously analyzed all the information left by the Maya. The terrain and environment were not much different from the current planet. However, they marked all the sinkholes on the planet with warnings of danger. Yet, countless backpackers and extreme sports enthusiasts had explored these sinkholes thoroughly without any apparent issues. If there were dangers, those individuals would have reported it long ago. But why did the Maya specifically mark these places as dangerous? Given their technological level, they wouldn't casually label things, which left Nova deep in thought. Unfortunately, what could an artificial intelligence truly contemplate? Helpless, Nova had no choice but to call upon its master. "Captain, I found that the information records from the Maya indicate anomalies and also describe the current exploration situation. I request authorization to send a team of robots for exploration, primarily to study the sinkhole and to analyze the significance of the retained information. Therefore, I need your approval." The Eastern entity, curious as always, was busy bickering with his father and, without much thought, granted the authorization. At 2300 hours, in a tourist area in central Mexico, the duty personnel were lying in the duty room, bored and smoking. As the seasons were not distinct here, the room felt somewhat stuffy at this hour. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, scattering papers all over the duty room. He quickly got up to close the window and took a glance outside. Dark clouds covered the moonlight, and it had turned pitch black outside. The wind howled, rushing into the Swallow Cave and creating an eerie, sharp echo. The duty personnel shrank his neck and hurriedly secured the doors and windows before lying back down to sleep. Amidst this dreadful weather, above the Swallow Cave, blue ripples flashed by. A transport ship appeared silently, quickly descending toward the cave entrance. The The Swallow Cave has a depth of 426 meters and a conical shape, meaning it is narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. Due to the large size of the transport ship, it hovered above the entrance. And then the bottom hatch opened, releasing a dark shadow. After a sound echoed from the cave's bottom, a series of robots slid down swiftly, disappearing into the entrance. A few minutes later, the transport ship retracted its ropes and hovered in midair. Unlike the cramped entrance, the space at the bottom of the cave was extremely spacious. However, due to the large number of swallows and bats living inside, when the robots landed, they stepped into a mix of phosphorescent sand and swallow droppings. For this exploration, Nova dispatched a total of 12 robots, 2 liquid robots, 5 bionic robots, 2 engineering robots, 1 detection and analysis robot, and 1 Hercules robot for transporting equipment and supplies. They were currently standing on a platform measuring 27 meters long and 10 meters wide, which was essentially a massive pile of droppings accumulated over years by thousands of swallows and bats. In the robot's perspective, this was merely material, no different from stones or water sources. They were only concerned about damaging their instruments, so the Hercules robot raised its mechanical arm high, holding the equipment above its head. At this moment, the engineering robots came into play, their treads moving smoothly over the slick surface as if they were in water. The mechanical hand transformed into a shovel, creating a slope on the pile of droppings. The remaining robots slowly followed behind, descending the large heap. It wasn't until they were 20 meters away from the pile that the droppings on the ground began to diminish. They continued moving in one direction until they stopped at a rock wall, revealing the mysteries of the underground before the robots' cameras. Strange rocks stood tall, with stalactites piercing down like swords, and water droplets were dripping steadily. The walls were adorned with large stone curtains, resembling drapes hanging on a wall, while the corners were filled with clusters of stalagmites, standing upright towards the sky. The bionic robot turned on its lights, casting a spectrum of colors through the uniquely shaped stalactites, transforming the cave into a fantastical scene. However, this disturbance startled the creatures within the cave, causing countless bats and swallows to take flight, creating a dark mass that quickly swept through the air. They crowded together, charging towards the robot, but their attacks were futile. Protected by an energy shield, they could only crash against the blue dome of light and could not advance further. After 5 minutes, there were still no signs of them stopping, which affected the robot's exploration. Report Nova, encountering a bat attack, requesting countermeasures. The electronic eyes of the 2 liquid robots turned deep red. Their mechanical arms instantly transformed into thick cannon barrels, with bright lights flickering inside the tubes. The battle between the robots and the bats was about to begin. In the Eastern family's new home, after a long wait, his grandmother and mother finally finished their washing tasks. It's finally my turn. Father Dongyan immediately jumped up from the sofa as he saw the 2 emerge from the bathroom wrapped in bathrobes. Go ahead. That felt really good, Eastern's mother sighed, collapsing onto the sofa. Son, I've prepared the water for you. Hurry up and wash. You're covered in dirt. Grandmother still cared for her grandson, thoughtfully preparing water for him after her own wash. Good grandson, your beauty treatment is truly unmatched. I feel like I'm at most 30 years old now. Eastern chuckled, watching the 2, eagerly anticipating his mother's enthusiastic praise. Captain, sorry to interrupt your family enjoyment. Suddenly, Nova appeared in Eastern's view, looking unusually serious. Wait. Eastern sensed something different in Nova's tone and suppressed his curiosity, preparing to calm his family before inquiring further. Haha, that's right, this is the latest technology. Eastern stood up, shrugged his shoulders, and then let out a long yawn. I've taken care of you all night. I'm dead tired. I'm going to get some sleep. You all should rest too. Mom will make breakfast. You should eat a little before resting. No, I'm sleepy. Don't mind me. I'll just grab a bite when I wake up. Just save some for me. He then pretended to be lethargic, patiently walking back to his bedroom and locking the door behind him. Nova, let us talk. As soon as he locked the door, Eastern immediately regained his composure, his eyes shining brightly, no trace of sleepiness left. Here's the thing. With your permission, I dispatched 12 exploration robots. Nova quickly explained the exploration process and encounters of the robots. As it reported the relevant situation, footage captured by the bionic robots was simultaneously playing. Then the Eastern observer saw the sky, filled with countless bats. They were relentlessly attacking 12 robots. Captain, the 3rd law of artificial intelligence strictly prohibits harming any living beings in non-war situations unless authorized by you. Therefore, I request your authorization to further carry out the exploration mission. After reporting the relevant situation, Nova disappeared from the Eastern observer's sight, and what followed was the real-time footage transmitted by the bionic robots. The Eastern observer carefully examined the bats that were continuously swooping in. They were quite large, and compared to the nearby robots, the bats measured approximately 13 to 15 meters when their wings were spread out. At that moment, they seemed to be caught in a frenzy, opening their mouths wide to reveal sharp teeth. They lunged at the robots again and again. It seemed that these blue energy shields were their mortal enemies, and despite being battered and bruised, they showed no signs of stopping. Were we disturbing their lives? The Eastern Observer, observing the unusual behavior of the bats, took a moment to contemplate before speaking. Let's try to drive them away with fire. If they stop attacking, we can continue exploring, as they are also living beings. Understood, Captain. As soon as Nova's voice fell, the robots in the Swallow Cave unleashed a blazing fire. Regardless of the animal, the fear of flames is deeply ingrained in their bones and blood. So, upon seeing the roaring flames, the frenzied bat army suddenly paused. The Eastern Observer saw that some bats began to show signs of fear. A portion of the bats that were about to collide with the energy shield made a sudden stop in the air. However, due to their high speed, they couldn't halt in time and ended up rolling over. This influence quickly spread among the bats, with many retreating and flying back to hang on the walls, seemingly unaffected by their earlier frenzy. However, the Eastern Observer also noticed some anomalies, as a portion of the bats, despite showing fear in their eyes, continued to charge forward. Not towards the energy shields, but towards the flames emitted by the robots. Chapter 167. The flames emitted by the bionic robots were unlike ordinary fire. They used a high-temperature spray gun, and the flames produced were meant to melt metal. This was essential equipment for engineering robots, frequently used during maintenance of mechanical devices. Since no other fire sources were available, the engineering robots naturally used the high-temperature spray gun when Nova issued the command. The flames reached temperatures of 2,000 degrees Celsius, with blue flames occasionally flickering red, capable of melting steel in just a few seconds. Therefore, the outcome when the bats swooped down towards the nozzle was obvious. One by one, the bats were instantly engulfed in fireballs. They then fell to the ground, becoming piles of bonfires that surrounded the robots. The remaining bats seemed to be terrified, quickly flying into the darkness and disappearing. Indeed, Dongfang mumbled a few words. Although some had been eliminated, it was only a few dozen, which wouldn't have much impact on the large bat population. Nova, continue the exploration, until all the bats disappeared from sight. Dongfang issued the command again. He comfortably lay on the bed, his eyes slightly squinted, focusing all his energy on the real-time images in front of him. Received. Nova replied briefly. The exploration team continued forward, first releasing dozens of small drones to quickly complete the mapping of the terrain at the bottom of the sinkhole. A three-dimensional topographic map appeared in Dongfang's eyes. Captain, the terrain has been mapped out. Please give your command. Dongfang carefully examined the topographic map. The bottom of the sinkhole was relatively flat, aside from a pile of waste in the middle, and there were several caves scattered along the walls. Dongfang counted a total of 2 large caves, located in the north and northeast directions. The entrances were huge, over 20 meters high and approximately 10 meters wide. The remaining caves were smaller, the shallowest being only 3 meters deep and the deepest about 10 meters, with entrances ranging from 2 to 4 meters. Continue to launch the drones and determine the situation of the 2 caves before making the next arrangement. Yes, the armor on the back of the Hercules robot opened. The drones that had just returned took off again. There were a total of 40 drones, which circled in the air before splitting into 2 teams, each entering a cave. The drones, specifically designed for cave terrain mapping, were equipped with a special device on top, called a terrain scanner. As they flew, the scanner emitted white light, like tentacles, sweeping over all objects in the cave and transmitting the data back to the exploration robot's mainframe, forming a real-time topographic map of the cave. With a delay of only about 1 second, it could be said to be an excellent piece of equipment for terrain exploration. To ensure accuracy in mapping, the number of drones deployed would vary based on the exploration area, and the exploration robot would conduct a horizontal comparison of all the information received from the drones to achieve 100 mapping of the terrain. The drones flew swiftly, navigating through the winding cave. The terrain features were continuously refined in Dongfang's eyes. He was captivated by the beautiful scenery before him, the uniquely shaped stalactites and the crystal-clear underground water. Nature's craftsmanship was exquisitely displayed in the cave, making one unconsciously immersed in its beauty. However, amidst the appreciation of the scenery, Dongfang also sensed something unusual. In the northeast cave, aside from the wonders, there were numerous white bones scattered across the ground. After years of accumulation, the thickness could even reach over 2 meters. Based on their appearance, it was clear that these bones were left by the bats in the cave. Captain, based on the size comparison, these bones should belong to the large bats. And due to the passage of time, they even show signs of weathering. Nova's voice echoed as the images in his eyes zoomed in, revealing a large expanse of white soil. The white soil below was formed from decayed bones, typically taking about 5 years to reach this state. Nova continued to explain. It seemed that there was even more below, but to determine the exact age, a robot would need to enter and take samples for testing. They would discuss it after the terrain mapping was completed. As for the bones, the eastern figure had little curiosity and thus had no intention of further exploration. Strange. Why was the cave in the northern area so clean? The eastern figure noticed the anomaly again. Captain, what do you mean? Nova asked, puzzled, having detected no abnormalities. Look at the first cave. It's filled with bones and droppings from bats and swallows. Yet the larger cave to the north is unusually clean, with not a trace of waste on the ground. Do those animals not enter here? Or is someone preventing them from doing so? Captain, bats prefer dark and humid environments. Look at the cave in the northeast. It has plenty of water sources. This may just be their habit, Nova analyzed based on scientific research. The eastern figure nodded, temporarily setting aside his doubts. The northern cave did appear drier. The aircraft had already flown 1 kilometer without spotting any water sources. The exploration continued to deepen, with more data being relayed to the eastern figure's eyes. Nova, hover the aircraft in the northern cave. What do you see there? With a sense of curiosity, the eastern figure observed more closely, and again he noticed an anomaly. The aircraft stopped. The eastern figure could see more clearly now. Look, is that a footprint? The image froze and zoomed in again, revealing a mark resembling a footprint in the eastern figure's view. The outline was traced with red lines, and the patterns at the bottom were unusually clear. Yes, Your Excellency, this is a footprint. Analyzing the pressure, contact points, and size. The owner of the footprint should be over 2 meters tall and weigh around 90 kilograms. The walking style is quite peculiar, making it impossible to determine the gender. The image in the eastern figure's eyes shrank, and about 80 centimeters away from the first footprint, a second footprint was outlined in red lines. It was indeed very strange. Just as Nova had said, it seemed as though this person walked with their legs spread apart, as if they were carrying something between their legs. Nova, do we have any records of shoe soles with similar patterns? None. I have compared all shoe sole patterns on Blue Star, but there were no results. Does it resemble fish scales? Oh, the eastern figure zoomed in on the image and saw that it did look like scales. The soil bore imprints resembling scales. Unlike the regular patterns made by normal shoe soles, who could have appeared here, wearing such odd shoes and walking in such a peculiar manner? Chapter 168. Delving deeper, what exactly is this? Animals? Humans? Unfortunately, there is too little information to make any further judgments. Nova, let us continue to delve deeper. Since no discoveries have been made, there is no need for further hesitation. Understood, Captain. Once again, images from the aircraft appeared in Dongfang's eyes. As the aircraft ventured deeper, more traces emerged. At the same time, the ground began to change. A path made of stones appeared. It was smooth and even, with some pillars on either side that had grooves on top, likely meant for holding torches. At this point, Dongfang could clearly deduce that these traces were definitely left behind by intelligent human beings. The stone path was not long, only about 210 meters. At the speed of the aircraft, it reached the end in just 2 seconds. The end of the path was also the end of the cave. The space here was extraordinarily wide. It resembled an inverted bowl, with smooth curved walls all around. In the center, there was a circular platform about 1 meter high, with the stones on the ground polished to a mirror finish, even reflecting the aircraft as it passed over. The aircraft hovered again in front of the wall, which also exhibited a state similar to that of the platform. Nova, explore carefully to see if there are any patterns, symbols, or writing. Excitement sparkled in Dongfang's eyes. All these traces indicated that they must be remnants of a highly advanced civilization. The aircraft quickly circled the area, and various data appeared before Dongfang. The space was a standard hemisphere, with a radius of 50 meters. Dongfang furrowed his brow. This was absolutely not a project that ancient people could complete. Even now, the inhabitants of this planet would not be able to accomplish it. Such a deep sinkhole could not possibly be created solely by human labor. And how would mechanical equipment be transported here? Moreover, there were no signs of transportation left behind. Where did the excavated waste go? Is this a kind of altar, Nova? Dongfang's curiosity was rapidly piqued. Not quite. I compared it with all the documented altars on this planet, and there are no similarities. There are no writings, no symbols, and not even any carved patterns. Of course, it's also possible that they polished it later. Captain, the capabilities of the aircraft are too limited. Let the robots enter. They carry analyzers, and once they obtain samples, they can conduct in-depth analysis. Dongfang naturally agreed without hesitation. The robots stationed at the bottom of the cave immediately sprang into action, and the real-time images in Dongfang's eyes transformed into what the liquid robots were seeing. Since no dangers were detected during the preliminary exploration, the robots entered at a considerable speed. They reached the spot where Dongfang discovered the first footprint in just 10 minutes. Stopping 1 meter away from the footprint, all the robots formed a fan shape, surrounding the trace in the middle. The Hercules robot opened the armor on its arm, and a detection device was placed at its feet. The electronic eyes of the detection robot emitted 2 beams of white light, scanning the traces on the ground within a 1 meter radius. Captain, There's a new discovery. A three-dimensional image appeared in Dongfang's view, marked by Nova. It showed an orange indentation with fish scale-like patterns. Furthermore, based on 2 footprints and 1 indentation, a preliminary outline of a creature was drawn. What the heck? Dongfang couldn't help but exclaim. This creature had a thick tail. Moreover, it could walk upright. Look at its walking simulation, Nova prompted. And the outlined figure began to take slow steps. This time, its gait didn't seem so strange as it dragged its tail, causing its legs to naturally spread apart while walking. That fits. Dongfang crossed his arms, with the left arm below and the right arm above, resting his chin on his right hand, feeling the stubble that had just started to grow. He fell into deep thought, although his biggest question was answered. Why did its walking posture still seem a bit odd? Unconsciously, he straightened his back and stood up from the chair, pacing in the empty space of the bedroom. He raised his head high, then spread his legs and took a big step forward. No, that's not right. Dongfang shook his head, retracted his leg, then bent down, placing one arm behind him, pretending he also had a tail, taking a few steps side to side. That's it. The strange feeling finally disappeared. Nova, adjust the appearance. Let the waist sink a bit. Yes, bend a little more. Okay. As the form continued to adjust, a bizarre new shape appeared in Dongfang's view. How to describe it? It looked like an upright walking crocodile, or perhaps a lizard. Dongfang wasn't sure for now. The detection robot then entered the collection phase, moving slowly to the footprints, extending its mechanical arm, which had transformed into a shovel, to lift the footprints along with the soil beneath them, placing them into the prepared collection box. Report. Collection task completed, requesting age assessment. Since the age assessment would damage some samples, the robot specifically made the request. Assessment approved. Dongfang certainly wouldn't object. It was just a shoe print, which had no significant value. The detection robot immediately took a large chunk of soil from the collection box and placed it into the monitoring device set down by Hercules. Within a few minutes, the results were fed back to Dongfang's view. The soil showed that it had formed between 1500 and 1600 years ago. Why hasn't the shoe print disappeared after such a long time? Dongfang asked. Nova didn't respond immediately, but remained silent for a few seconds. Captain, I just conducted a lateral comparison of the data collected from the aircraft. The temperature and humidity here are very stable. It's easy to explain the constant temperature in the depths of the Earth, but it's strange that the humidity remains at a comfortable level of 45 to 50, especially since there are no water sources in this cave and no signs of groundwater seeping through the walls. Never mind, why think so much? Let's continue our exploration. Understood. The communication between Dongfang and Nova immediately ceased, and the robot continued forward. Before long, they reached a narrow path. The cave here had become quite constricted, resembling the mouth of a gourd, suddenly tightening into a passage about 2 meters wide. The liquid robot was the first to step onto it. The collision between its feet and the ground made a loud clang. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth from the passage. Chapter 169. Harpoon Dongfang's eyes were blinded by the sudden bright light, and he could see nothing. Only the sound of retreat echoed in his mind. And then he fell into endless darkness. No signals were coming in. Nova, what's happening? Dongfang's vision was still somewhat blurry, his eyes bloodshot, and tears flowed uncontrollably. Captain, when the liquid robot stepped onto the passage, the ground suddenly reversed, and then bright lights over 5,000 lumens erupted around the passage, with powerful particle beams attacking the robot from both sides. Hercules was last, so he captured some of the impact. Once again, the bright light appeared in Dongfang's eyes. But after processing by Nova, the brightness had decreased significantly. Dongfang vaguely saw 2 thick beams of light rapidly incinerating all the robots in front of Hercules into molten steel. Powerful particle beams. Shock appeared in Dongfang's eyes. This is not the kind of energy weapon that can be produced on this planet. Indeed, Captain, the technology level exceeds that of a level 1 civilization. Continue to deploy small, unmanned aerial vehicles. Go check the scene. Understood. The cargo ship hovering above the Swallow Cave opened its hatch, and over 100 small, unmanned aerial vehicles flew out, quickly heading towards the bottom of the cave, even creating a huge whistling sound in the air due to their high speed. The size of the unmanned aerial vehicles was less than that of a human hand, which demonstrated their remarkable speed and Dongfang's urgency. In just 2 minutes, the unmanned aerial vehicles reached the entrance of the passage, hovering and carefully capturing the scene. Consistent with Nova's report, all the robots had been reduced to molten steel, glowing red in puddles. The temperature must have exceeded 1,500 degrees Celsius, indicating the high temperature of the powerful particle beams. Nova, have the aircraft approach for closer observation. From the group of aircraft, 5 flew out, landing on the ground of the passage at an extremely slow speed. The liquid robot was less than 20 centimeters away from the molten steel in its right foot. The tension in Dongfang's heart rose to his throat as he adjusted the brightness of the image to the lowest setting. ensuring that even if another sudden light appeared, it wouldn't affect his visibility. As the aircraft gently landed on the ground, Dongfang's anxious heart also calmed down. There was no change in the passage. It was eerily quiet. As if the energy beam just emitted didn't exist at all. Nova, is it due to the weight? Dongfang asked with confusion. There's a very high possibility, Nova replied. After her words, the second, third, and up to the 25th aircraft landed in the passage before any changes occurred again. Captain, the brightness has decreased. It's only about 1,000 lumens now. Moreover, the change is indeed caused by weight. 25 aircraft landing create a gravitational force of 500 newtons, equivalent to 1 human foot on the ground. The hovering aircraft outside the passage had already moved to either side, leaving the remaining 75 aircraft intact. Dongfang also saw the energy beam emitted again in the passage. The energy contained in the beam had also decreased, now only half the strength of the last time. Let's try again. After Dongfang issued the command, another 25 aircraft flew out and landed in the passage. Just like before, both the brightness and the energy intensity decreased again. After 2 attempts, the energy beam in the passage seemed to have reached its lowest point. One aircraft even wobbled out, landing outside the passage. And after emitting a puff of smoke, it was completely damaged. The propeller was burnt and pockmarked, but it was evident that the energy was insufficient. Let's do it again, Dongfang said, his serious expression easing as he spoke lightly. This time, after the aircraft landed, the floor opened up once more. The lights around the passage flickered like a burnt-out bulb before showing no further reaction. The energy beam emitter inside only shot out a beam the size of a thumb before stopping in place, and the floor no longer retracted, simply freezing in place. Nova, how many bionic robots are left in the transport ship? Dongfang asked, a smile of joy spreading across his face. There are still 88 units. Send out 20 units. I want to dismantle this passage and see what secrets it hides. Understood. The robots reached the entrance of the passage once again, and one stepped forward, shooting out a deep blue freezing ray. The molten steel, which was originally glowing red, immediately turned jet black. The robot continued forward, reached the cover in front of the passage, and jumped in. Inside was a vast underground space, approximately 50 meters long and 20 meters high, with a reactor placed in the center and densely arranged cables running along the walls and upwards. Below the particle emitter is a precise mechanical structure, which has delivered 2 emitters outside the cover plate. Outside the reactor's wall is a display screen of about 1 square meter. It might have been due to a lack of energy, as the screen was already black when the robots saw it. More robots descended from the cover plate, beginning to survey the surroundings. Captain, look at these mechanical structures. They are incredibly compact, with all metal parts manufactured to an accuracy of about 1 micrometer. Additionally, there are protective casings on the outside, and the transmission mechanisms are filled with lubricant, which I believe is a primary reason they can operate normally. The robot cut open the mechanical shell, revealing a faint green liquid inside. The observer glanced inside at the transmission structure, which gleamed with metallic luster, showing no signs of rust. However, the arrangement of the cables seemed completely disorganized, as if they had been hastily connected and then abandoned. The observer noted that the cables resembled a spider web, haphazardly stretched in various directions, contrasting sharply with the precision layout of the machinery. What about the energy reactor? The observer became curious about the tall spherical object in the center. He noticed several robots had opened the outer shell beneath the reactor, exposing a dense array of components inside. Please hold on. At that moment, a robot extended its mechanical arm, which transformed into scissors, quickly cutting numerous cables short. The scissors then morphed back into a cable shape, connecting to one of the cables. The display screen on the reactor wall lit up, and after a cascade of symbols flowed down, a logo appeared in the center of the screen, which the observer recognized instantly. A harpoon. Chapter 170 measures seconds later. The harpoon logo disappeared, and the screen displayed an interface for window operations. The icons were primarily circular, with a small city map featuring a ring of water and a ring of land on top, resembling a series of eyeballs. Nova compared the icons to the Eye of the Sahara and was surprised by their unexpected similarity. When the 2 images were scaled down proportionally, they completely overlapped. Nova, is this a product of the Atlantis civilization? Captain, the relevant data from the controller is being transmitted, and it cannot be confirmed yet. Also, the symbols they use do not appear in any records from Blue Planet, so I need you to wait a moment. After Nova's statement, he fell silent, while the observer began to carefully analyze the images transmitted by the bionic robot. He zoomed in on the photos and soon noticed the differences in the circular icons. In fact, the icons were quite similar, with the differences lying in the content and the annotated symbols. It's worth mentioning that many of the symbols annotated on the icons were circular, along with some triangular and irregular shapes, which looked somewhat like writing. The difference was in the buildings on the land inside the circular rings. In the top image, the buildings were tall, with large stone columns standing on both sides of the entrance steps. Moreover, the buildings within the central 3 rings of land are even more grand, with intricately carved beams and painted columns, exceptionally exquisite. The icons remain clear even when magnified, showcasing the high resolution of the display. The eastern region closed the image and switched back to the real-time feed from the bionic robot. At this moment, the bionic robot extended its finger, preparing to touch the icon on the screen. Seeing this scene, the eastern region immediately shouted in his heart for Nova to stop. He still felt a lingering fear from the previous incident underwater. Watching this unfold made his heart race. He hoped it wouldn't trigger another underground space or activate some mechanism. The command from the eastern region took effect, and just as the robot's finger was about to touch the screen, it stopped. It retracted its finger and turned to explore other areas. At this point, other robots also made discoveries. Beneath the dense network of cables, there was a computer-like instrument pressed underneath. However, it was not like the computers used by the inhabitants of the blue planet. It was a solid metal rectangular shape, with a screen on the front similar to that of a reactor. Given the eastern region's request, the bionic robot did not recklessly activate it, but instead moved the metal platform aside, observing all around before removing its back cover. It cut several cables again, using itself as a power source to supply the instrument. The screen lit up once more. The eastern region shifted his gaze to the other robots, each making their own discoveries, such as a cylindrical metal object with a glass panel in front of it, and a tablet similar to the ones used by the blue planet's inhabitants. There were also some suitcases, which, when opened, revealed various tools. The eastern region immediately understood that these were used for maintaining the equipment in the space below the passage. The robots began to get busy. This exploration could be considered quite fruitful. However, what the eastern region did not know was that at the end of the passage, beneath the circular platform, there was also a vast underground space, larger and more spacious than the area below the passage. Unlike the chaos found 200 meters underground, all the equipment here was exceptionally organized. There was also a reactor, but it was placed in a corner, and the ground was free of tangled cables. Although it was pitch black, the smooth, mirror-like floor reflected the occasional glow of green indicator lights from the instruments. It wasn't until the liquid robot stepped onto the passage that the tranquility of this place was suddenly shattered. As it stepped onto the passage, lights immediately illuminated the space, revealing everything. Intruder detected. Intruder detected. Activate high-energy particle cannon. Eliminate immediately. The mechanical, emotionless voice echoed throughout the hall. Following that, all the device screens lit up. One by one, harpoons, more accurately, tridents, illuminated sequentially. Strange symbols flooded the screens, and a familiar face appeared on them. An extraordinarily beautiful female face, with long blue hair and a pair of sparkling, large eyes. The ears were different from those of the beings from the blue planet, giving a somewhat pointed sensation. At this moment, her mouth was opening and closing, and a sharp mechanical sound seemed to emanate from it. The particle beam had been fired, the invaders had been eliminated, and it continued to stand by. After speaking, all the lights in the hall went out, and the underground space fell silent once again. But just a few minutes later, the area lit up again. Damn invaders. Eliminate them. The super energy particle beam has been fired, and the invaders have been destroyed again. Before the electronic voice echoed could finish, a high-pitched voice continued to sound. Invaders, invaders. Fire. Alarm, alarm. The reactor's fuel has been exhausted. Unable to continue firing the particle beam, the invaders are still alive. Abandon the super energy particle cannon. Activate the second line of defense until all invaders are eliminated. Return to standby. Repeat. The female face on the display screen disappeared, and the protagonist in the image transformed into a bionic robot, with every move captured clearly. There were a total of 20 invaders, currently in the energy cannon storage space. The mechanical drive system had been damaged, preparing to inject neurotoxin S. It is being released. Ending in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A faint pink smoke wafted from the ventilation ducts where the bionic robots were located, and within seconds, it dispersed into the air, completely unobservable to the naked eye. However, bionic robots were not human. They immediately reported the situation to the east. Captain, the microparticles in the air suddenly increased, and the detection result indicated neurotoxin S, which is highly toxic, as just 1 milligram could kill humans. Did Nova robots trigger some mechanism? No, Captain. All devices had their data transmission cables cut before activation, leaving only the connection between the main chip and the display screen. Even the power had been cut off. With the devices powered by the energy supplied from the bionic robots, the East felt a shock. Perhaps someone was manipulating everything from a place they could not see. And this was merely a trap. Nova, retreat. The East roared internally. Unfortunately, it was too late. The East saw the cover plate on top fall down, while the surrounding walls quickly rose. A large amount of liquid filled the underground space within a second, and the steel robots naturally could not float. Therefore, the energy shield lit up, blocking all the liquid from entering. What is going on? Nova. Chapter 171, all eliminated. Captain, I suspect these are strong acids. And they are highly corrosive, as the robot's energy has been significantly depleted. Nova's voice was unusually calm. These methods would be more than adequate against the beings from the blue planet, but they were completely ineffective against robots equipped with an energy shield. Nova appeared confident, but the eastern side disagreed. The recent energy particle beam had melted the robots down to molten steel. How could they possibly rely solely on these strong acids? It would be better to retreat. There were too many unknown factors here, and the robots had already collected quite a few items. After sending them back to the base for in-depth research, they could plan further exploration. As the ancients wisely said, knowing oneself and knowing the enemy leads to victory in every battle. Next time, they should come fully prepared. Understood, Captain. Preparing for evacuation. The robots began to move, reaching the bottom of the particle cannon and re-establishing power for the lift mechanism. The cover above opened, revealing the particle cannon. The robots were about to leave. The invaders were still alive. The neurotoxin was ineffective, and the strong acids had no effect. Requesting activation of thermal lasers. 'Tis requested activation of thermal lasers. No response. Reapplying. Still no response. Initiating emergency procedures. Autonomous authorization granted to activate thermal lasers. All invaders must be eliminated, and the passage must be permanently sealed. That group must remain buried forever. After the electronic voice made its request without receiving authorization, it seemed its master had anticipated this situation. Even without authorization, it could still activate the thermal lasers to eliminate anyone or anything that entered. Just as the eastern side's bionic robots crawled out from the underground and closed the cover, a silent 5-meter-wide opening appeared at the top of the passage. 20 thick orange lasers fired simultaneously, knocking the robots, which had just retracted their energy shields, to the ground. Darkness enveloped the eastern side once again. Does Nova have a record? Yes. The eastern side was surprised that Nova had indeed recorded it. The drone, although unable to fly, still had a functioning camera. So look here. The eastern side saw that the robots had barely taken 2 steps when thick orange beams, about 5 centimeters in diameter, shot down from above, piercing through the robots' chests and creating large holes. Moreover, the energy had not diminished. It continued downward, disappearing after penetrating the cover on the ground. The robots fell, and at the spot where the cover was pierced, large amounts of white smoke billowed out, obscuring all the robots from view. The invaders, or rather, the destroyers, had all been eliminated, and the guarding base would once again enter a dormant state. The remaining fuel in the reactor was below 40. Preparing to activate backup energy. The lights in the hall dimmed, and the electronic voice became very low, gradually disappearing. Nova, today has truly been full of misfortunes. Further exploration here is temporarily unfeasible. Let's send out small drones to bring back the small instruments carried by those robots for study before making further plans. Captain, should we send out a battleship to fire a shot? After completely destroying it, we can delve deeper? Nova sensed a hint of despondency in the eastern side's tone. Forget it. This is not the essence of exploration. If everything gets destroyed, we will lose a lot as well. Let's send some more robots to bring back the instruments obtained from the underground space. 20 robots approached the entrance of the passage again. This time, they did not enter but extended their mechanical arms to pull out the damaged tablets, repair tools, and communication devices carried by the damaged robots. Since the passage was narrow, the retrieval of items was somewhat slow. The operator decided to give up on following and fell asleep on the bed in a daze. Upon discovering the invaders again, it was analyzed that their numbers were vast, and their personnel were highly qualified and capable. They would enter in batches to gradually explore the defense measures. And the first and second layers of defense had already been exposed, increasing the risk of base breach to 70. The passive defense had lost its effectiveness. To ensure the safety of the sealed doors, a request was made to deploy flying vehicles to eliminate all living forces of the invaders. Repeat. Request for active deployment. The largest display on the wall of the underground platform hall lit up, revealing an anxious expression on the originally beautiful female face. The noise in the hall continued to rise, even creating ripples in the air. Authorization could not be obtained. According to security regulations, the safety of the base was the top priority. To protect the base, deployment was permitted. The expression on the female face gradually disappeared, and her voice seemed to turn even colder. The platform that the operator had seen slowly split apart, and menacing flying vehicles flew out from within. The passage of the platform also slowly retracted to both sides, transforming the narrow passage into a wide expanse like the underground space. Once the passage widened, the flying vehicles ejected fierce flames from their rear and vanished into the air above the platform. Due to the prolonged time taken to widen the passage, the operator's bionic robots had not moved far when suddenly a massive rumbling sound came from behind. The robots immediately halted their advance and turned to look back. At the same time, their energy shields activated, taking up defensive stances. 2 seconds later, they captured the object producing the rumbling sound. It was a flying vehicle. It had 3 points, resembling a trident but more aesthetically pleasing, with a streamlined body approximately 3 meters long and less than 2 meters wide. Each side of the trident had a thick cannon mounted on it. When the robots saw it, the cannon had already emitted an orange glow. Nova, upon detecting the flying vehicle's attack, requested to counterattack. The bionic robots did not have the authority to initiate an attack, so they could only make a request. However, the thermal laser fired from the trident flying vehicle would not wait. Dozens of lasers struck the energy shield of the bionic robot in the blink of an eye. The first wave of aircraft flew over the robot's head, followed closely by a second wave, unleashing another barrage of lasers. The blue shield of the bionic robot showed signs of wear after withstanding the first wave, with parts of its casing flickering and turning black, nearing the point of failure. The second wave of lasers became the last straw, turning all 20 robots into pincushions, collapsing on the ground and emitting black smoke. The mechanical voice in the hall announced that some intruders had been cleared and urged to continue advancing until all intruders were eliminated. Chapter 172. Counterattack. After the mechanical voice finished speaking, the aircraft did not pause at all. They continued to speed towards the Swallow Cave. Upon reaching the cave's bottom, one reconnaissance craft was left behind while the rest adjusted their flight paths, heading straight for the cave entrance. The aircraft seemed specially designed to fit perfectly through the narrow opening of the Swallow Cave. Once they exited, they immediately divided into 5 formations. One team hovered in place for vigilance, while the other 4 teams flew out in the east, south, west, and north directions. No intruders were found within a 2-kilometer radius to the north or south, and all intruding forces to the east were eliminated. The aircraft returned to base, and the facility continued to maintain a state of silence. The mechanical voice in the hall seemed to have lifted a heavy burden, its tone becoming somewhat gentler. While returning, it was estimated that they would arrive back at the base in 2 minutes. Captain Nova appeared in Dongfang's view, his voice unusually gentle, though the increasingly rapid pace of his speech revealed his anxious mood. Dongfang was indeed tired. After several days of experiments, completing multifunctional stem cell tests, caring for family injections, and commanding the exploration of the Swallow Cave, he had been mentally exhausted. Consequently, he fell into a deep sleep once he relaxed. Even as Nova's voice grew louder, he showed no reaction. Captain, Dongfang felt someone nudging him. Groggily, he opened his eyes to see his bodyguard, still wearing sunglasses, beside him. What a large face, Dongfang remarked, rubbing his face before muttering. Nova, disturbing my dreams is not a good habit. Nova replied, come on, I know you have important matters to discuss. Just joking. Don't take it to heart. Dongfang laughed and sat up. Captain, the Swallow Cave. Nova quickly reported the recent encounter and displayed an image of a trident-shaped aircraft to Dongfang. I was about to retreat, and yet the other side is still so relentless? Dongfang's tone turned cold. Do they really think we are pushovers? What is the performance of these aircraft? Can we achieve an overwhelming victory? Dongfang felt worried about potential losses, fearing a situation where both sides could be defeated. Captain, look at the exhaust flames at the tail of the aircraft. It still uses the original chemical engine, so we can be sure that the opponent's technological strength does not exceed level 1 civilization. Therefore, I need your authorization to launch a full counterattack. I think this soft target must be the opponent. After hearing Nova's analysis, Dongfang felt relieved. Since the other side is the one that is lagging behind, there is nothing more to say. We can counterattack and make them understand that being backward means being beaten. They shouldn't always think too highly of themselves. Defeating a few robots doesn't mean they know everything. Authorization granted, the swarm aircraft production line has been activated. The fully automated second-generation mech manufacturing has started, and the ground mech production has begun. The captain estimates that we will reach the target location in 30 minutes. After reporting the relevant situation, Nova fell silent again. Dongfang knew it was to speed up production by allocating some computing power to it. Half an hour is neither long nor short. Feeling a bit bored, Dongfang accessed the monitoring system of the lunar base. To facilitate management, Nova had installed ultramicro cameras in every building, every corner, and every room of the base, forming a vast surveillance network that could be considered all-encompassing and without blind spots. Using the surveillance system, he could see any corner of the base. However, this also made it convenient for Dongfang. He switched between views like discovering a fascinating new toy, seeing everything in the base at a glance. Oh, has the base changed this much? Dongfang murmured, then glanced at the latest topographic map drawn by Nova. Wow. Since the establishment of the lunar base, which has been less than a month, he never expected the base to change so dramatically. First, the most significant change is in area. During this time, Nova has expanded the base's range by more than 2 kilometers. Moreover, It's not just in one direction, but also underground. The originally low watchtowers around have been dismantled, and new buildings of different designs have been constructed on the new borders, resembling slender pyramids about 50 meters tall, completely enclosed. The previously exposed fierce cannon barrels have vanished. And at the top of the tower, Dongfang saw a familiar blue energy sphere. Nova, what is this? Captain, this is a new type of watchtower. The latest product of the combination of Yan and ground ring technology. It will eliminate all invading enemies, just like in a temple. Nova replied hurriedly before disappearing from view again. It turned out to be exactly as he had speculated. The golden tower body and the quietly floating energy sphere were vastly different from the style of the lunar base. After Dongfang inspected the entire base inside and out, he finally shifted his attention to the northern area of the base, where the mechanical equipment manufacturing workshop is located. At this moment, the workshop is brightly lit, and transport robots are continuously delivering the produced mechanical components to the assembly workshop. The two workshops are seamlessly connected, as parts are sent in from one side. A second-generation mech emerges from the other side at a frequency of about 1 every 2 seconds. Dongfang roughly counted, and there were already about 200 second-generation mechs parked in the open space outside the assembly workshop. At the same time, he noticed Nova standing next to the mechs. Nova, 200 beast-shaped second-generation mechs. That should be enough to flatten the target, right? Dongfang thought to himself, surprised that Nova was even more ruthless than he expected. This was clearly a plan to crush the opponent completely. Captain, I just conducted a tactical simulation based on the known information from both sides. To ensure a 100 success rate for this operation, I need to produce 100 more as backup. Nova's eyes gleamed with intensity. It was furious. What it had initially considered a straightforward reconnaissance mission had turned into a series of obstacles, and so far, not a single item had been retrieved. Moreover, it had wasted a significant amount of the captain's resources, which was absolutely unforgivable. They had to be physically eliminated. Dongfang did not intervene. He wanted to see what kind of grudge or resentment the opponent had that would lead to such an all-out assault. If they could not handle it, so be it. But if they could, he expected a clear explanation. Chapter 173, Swift Action. How long do I have to wait? Estimated completion time is 5 minutes. Arriving over the target in 10 minutes. Dongfang nodded. He shifted his gaze to the aircraft production workshop, located over 300 meters away. This was a relatively small type of aircraft known as Swarm. Although called a Swarm, its wingspan is around 2 meters, which is smaller compared to aircraft on Blue Planet. It is named Swarm because of its relatively low production difficulty, primarily relying on numbers to achieve victory in battle. Its greatest feature is its self-sacrificing nature. A large group of these aircraft will surge ahead of their main forces, creating chaos in the enemy's airspace. If any of them sustain severe damage, they won't return but will instead dive directly onto the enemy's heads, detonating upon impact. Beautiful fireworks would immediately bloom above the enemies. Dongfang counted their numbers again. There were at least over 500. He did not bother to count them precisely since Nova had reported that all preparations were complete. The hatch of the spherical starship opened, and the Swarm flew in first, as they were the fastest. Following them were various second-generation mechs in the air, Wolf, Tiger, Leopard, and Spider-type fully automated intelligent mechs. At the end are the combat-type bionic robots, which are different from the exploratory robots that entered the Swallow Cave earlier. Their surfaces are similarly covered with thick armor, and the soles of their feet are equipped with boosters like those on the second-generation mechs, allowing for low-altitude flight. There are even more of these combat-type bionic robots. The exact number wasn't clear to Dongfang, so he asked Nova, who reported a total of 10,000 units. Dongfang was astonished. Deploying such a powerful military force could easily obliterate not just one Swallow Cave, but an entire planet as well. A few minutes later, all the robots entered the enormous spherical starship. The hatch of the starship slowly closed, and the engines at the rear lit up. The starship traced a beautiful arc of light and vanished into the spaceport of the base on the far side of the moon. Since it had been a long time since the Swallow Cave was detected, by the time the starship arrived overhead, the sky above the scenic area was already showing a faint light. Nova, it's about to be dawn. If any tourists come and get hurt, that would be a problem, Dongfang said. Quickly activate the climate control device and keep people indoors. He was worried that if any visitors showed up, the counterattack could be jeopardized. Captain, rest assured. I activated the climate control device as soon as we arrived. I believe people will definitely not come here for sightseeing. Nova replied just as a bright flash of lightning appeared above the Swallow Cave, followed by a loud boom that reached Dongfang's ears. A strong wind kicked up, and the previously bright sky was suddenly obscured by thick clouds. Torrential rain began to pour, causing the leaves of the trees surrounding the Swallow Cave to rattle loudly. Dongfang nodded. This was perfect. Action. Understood, Captain. Nova replied. Please name this operation. This operation is codenamed Swift Rain. First, it must be fast. Second, it must be fierce. We need to ensure they have no time to react, and the entire operation should be completed within 1 hour. Understood, Nova replied firmly. The hatch at the bottom of the spherical starship opened, directly targeting the Swallow Cave. The swarms of robots formed the first wave, moving at incredible speed. Even Dongfang, with his superior vision, could only see shadows accurately flying into the Swallow Cave. Next came the beast-type mechs. Their speed was significantly slower, and their larger size required the starship to fire a cutting beam that widened the entrance by 10 meters to facilitate their entry. Nova didn't worry about anyone discovering the anomaly later on. Finally, the combat-type bionic robots emerged, moving at the slowest pace. They only landed on the ground once all the beast-type mechs had exited the bottom of the Swallow Cave, totaling 1,000 units. The swarms had the fastest speed. They took only a few dozen seconds to reach the location where the second batch of robots had been shot through. As they just entered the bottom of the Swallow Cave, at the branching passage, a blinding red warning light lit up beneath the circular platform, and a cold, mechanical voice echoed urgently in the hall. Intruder detected. Intruder detected. Large numbers, extremely high speed. Activate maximum alert protocol. This was the first time since its construction that the highest level of response had been activated, and it could also be the last time. What returned to Dongfang's eyes was the real-time footage of the leading aircraft, flying over the remains of robots and zooming into the passage. To Dongfang's surprise, the passage had widened. It was a full 50 meters wide, illuminated by the lights of the aircraft, and he could already see those oddly shaped Trident flying machines. With a loud crash, the leading swarm collided with something, followed by the second and third aircraft. Due to their high speed, the leading aircraft lost 20 units in an instant, while the remaining aircraft hovered in front of the passage, not advancing a single step. Captain, it's a force field shield. I didn't expect the opponent to have a backup. Nova chuckled softly. She had long been prepared and wouldn't be caught off guard like last time under the sea. The swarm split apart, and a Queen Bee, larger than the other aircraft, flew out. The armor on the head of the diamond-shaped aircraft opened, revealing a cannon. It fired towards the passage. The intrusion had been successfully blocked by the force field, and preparations were underway to activate the thermal laser to eliminate all intruders. On the screen in the hall, the Queen Bee became the main character. Its cannon was aimed at the passage, but after a few seconds, nothing was fired. However, the originally hovering aircraft accelerated forward again. Warning, the force field shield has been damaged. Repeat, Captain, the force field has been compromised. We are preparing to enter. Just as Nova reported the situation, Dongfang saw numerous metal tubes reveal themselves above the passage, pointing outward. After the swarm activated, they fired the orange lasers he had seen last time. The swarm shield was not something detection robots could compare to. Although the thermal lasers left black patches on the shield, blue arcs quickly flashed across, and the shield returned to its original blue state. Only when more than 10 lasers hit an aircraft simultaneously could it cause damage. But that was just a minority. For a swarm of over 900 aircraft, it was hardly worth mentioning. Deploy Trident combat aircraft for aerial interception. Allow maximum power thermal laser activation. The cold mechanical voice in the underground space experienced an abnormal pause, then became smooth again. The number of intruders is too high, preparing to initiate self-destruct protocol. If all protective measures still cannot hold, we must destroy everything above to ensure the passage is never discovered by intruders. The fork and the arrow clashed hard. However, the number of arrows is greater, and the armor is thicker. All 150 fork-shaped aircraft have been shot down, crashing to the ground and emitting black smoke. Meanwhile, the swarm from the east continues to fly toward the already open platform. Chapter 174. Intense battle. Unable to resist. Unable to resist. Prepare thermal lasers, deploy robots, and get ready for close combat on the ground. All the flying spears are mobilized to buy time. From the opening platform, another batch of fork-shaped flying devices emerges. This time they are even more frenzied, firing lasers continuously as soon as they exit the opening. They do not maneuver at all. Once their energy is depleted, they charge straight into the swarm, causing explosions of flames in the passage. The passage trembles, and cracks appear on the ceiling. Large chunks of soil and rock fall down. Nova, don't let the passage collapse. Let the second-generation mechs engage in combat quickly. Understood, Captain. The Leopard-type mech is the fastest, moving swiftly through the cave, navigating the rugged terrain with ease. When it arrives at the battle scene, the swarm is engaged in close combat with the Trident aircraft. It uses its powerful hooves to leap into the air, sweeping with its left front claw, destroying 2 Trident aircraft in a burst of flames. After landing, it lets out a roar, exuding an aura of dominance. Behind it, more mechs enter the passage, and in just over 10 seconds, the aerial threats above the passage are completely cleared away. Only the wreckage remains, crackling and burning on the ground, unable to stop the invasion. Self-propelled robots are deployed in large numbers to buy time for self-destruction. Self-destruct sequence has been initiated. Countdown 5 minutes. I'm sorry, Father. I cannot complete the task you assigned, but I will fight the invaders until the last moment. In the underground hall, the originally cold and emotionless voice began to change. The constant stimulation has even led it to develop self-awareness. It then starts to mutter to itself, strange. These invaders don't seem to resemble the scum of the underground world at all. Instead, they are very similar to humans. Could it be that they are not here to open the passage to the underground? Oh no, if the base self-destructs, then wouldn't that mean? At this moment, the display screen in the hall is playing footage of the bionic robot's first entry. The images flash quickly, finally pausing on the head of a seemingly innocent-looking Hercules robot. Oh no. Immediately terminate the self-destruction program and attempt to communicate with the other party. But energy is already running low. What should we do? We must stop the meaningless consumption immediately to ensure the safety of the sealed passage. The flickering red light in the underground hall stops. Hello, unknown force. I need to communicate with your leader, I mean no harm. A cold mechanical voice from underground echoes in the passage. The eastern side hears this immediately. The pronunciation is somewhat similar to the language on the blue planet, but still quite different, so naturally, they cannot understand it. Nova, what is this voice? Currently analyzing, please wait. Are you humans? Trust me, I mean no harm. Please respond quickly, it's urgent. The voice seemed somewhat anxious and switched to another language. Captain, it was an ancient tongue, ancient Greek. It expressed a lack of malice and appeared quite urgent. Will you respond to it? This time, Nova reacted quickly. Let us talk. The East fell silent for a few seconds. Could it be that the other party realized it was impossible to successfully resist and was trying to buy time? But that didn't matter. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes would be crushed. What do you want to discuss? A second-generation Tiger-type mech leaped and stopped at the edge of the platform at the end of the corridor. It emitted Nova's voice, which was strikingly similar to the cold mechanical tone. Great. I didn't expect you to be human. It's all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? What do you mean? The mech crouched down, lowering its defensive posture. Previously, when your personnel arrived, I was still a program, mechanically executing the commands left by my master. And my command was to eliminate all intruders entering the corridor. That's why such things happen when your subordinates were exploring. I want to say that was not my intention. Please believe me. The mechanical voice spoke rapidly, seemingly eager to clear up the misunderstanding. Captain, what is your opinion? No rush. Let us probe its intentions. Since the situation was set, the East completely relaxed, lying back in the lounge chair in the bedroom, finding a comfortable position. Meanwhile, the artificial intelligence below became more anxious as it noticed the East's prolonged silence. Please respond quickly. The energy in the base has reached a warning level, and we cannot let those remnants out. Otherwise, all of humanity will face danger. Please hurry. The East furrowed his brow. Danger? What kind of danger are you referring to? I'm just a guard. My purpose is to protect this corridor. Just as the East was conversing with the newly aware artificial intelligence, danger was quietly approaching. 20 kilometers below the base, the diameter of Blue Planet is over 6,700 kilometers. So this is nothing. There was originally a huge orange light gate surrounded by densely packed laser launch tubes. If any object approached, they would immediately activate, incinerating all living beings within a 50-meter range to ashes. It was unknown how long this light gate had existed. Ashes had already piled up into a small hill in front of it. Occasionally, the wind would blow, lifting the topmost ashes, causing the area in front of the gate to be engulfed in black ash, creating a very poor environment. One day, the light gate suddenly changed, flickering on and off. Even a large insect-like creature that flew within the 50-meter range did not trigger the thermal lasers. This change was quickly noticed by certain beings. To be precise, it was a peculiar building about 100 meters from the light gate, where creatures observing the gate detected the anomaly. This is a building constructed underground, with only a small portion of its height, around 3 meters, visible above the surface. The front features a large door covered in spikes, where mosquitoes over 50 centimeters long occasionally collide, creating a chaotic scene in front of the door that makes it impossible to approach. Just as the light gate begins to flicker unstably, the large door suddenly swings open, and a creature emerges. Its face and exposed neck are covered in scales, and it wears a tight-fitting outfit. Its eyes are elongated, with a nauseating earthy yellow hue and tiny pupils. The pronounced jaw reveals a mouth full of sharp teeth, exuding a menacing appearance. It drags a thick tail behind it, and if someone were to catch a glimpse, they might mistake it for a bipedal lizard. Upon exiting, it immediately runs towards the light gate, seemingly holding something in its hand. Chapter 175. The truth: the clothing it wears is of remarkable quality. Despite its rapid and awkward movements, the outfit remains securely in place without any signs of wear. In just 4 seconds, It races from the room's door to a point 50 meters outside the light gate. It then comes to a steady halt, showing no sign of breath, as if it doesn't need to breathe at all. However, a few seconds later, a large puff of white vapor escapes from its mouth. Incredible, what physical prowess. After exhaling, it raises its left arm and hurls the object it was holding with great force. It turns out to be a gigantic, live mosquito. Due to the creature's immense strength, the mosquito can only futilely flap its wings before it crashes against the now flickering light gate like a projectile, leaving a stain behind. The previously sensitive thermal laser does not activate. Roar. The lizard-like creature lets out a cry, making a series of garbled sounds. The sealed light gate